Boom. Right. We are live. Welcome to the Fitness Business Face Off episode number 3. I'm excited for this one, even though it is 10 past 6 in the morning in the UK. Azri is on Dubai time, so me and Mike have decided to get up super early and jump on here. So, quick hands up. If I start yawning, it's not because you guys are boring me. It's because I'm usually not up at this time. I'm usually flat out. Uh, so let's get right into it. I want to go straight into round one. But before I do, just a couple of little things to set the tone. Uh, used to, firstly, massive appreciation for coming on because I feel quite privileged to you do too, really, in all honesty. To get used, firstly, Daddies to match up was like a real challenge and a real accomplishment in itself. So even if this podcast is awful, it's been an accomplishment so far. Um, but then, secondly, used to are very successful in your own right, and you've done it in very different ways, and this is the beauty of I think this idea. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm just a typical online coach that's been in a few mentorships, and I decided, you know what, I think with the mentorship space the way it is, coaches or mentors sitting down and discussing their methods openly, honestly, and respectfully would be a real insight for coaches to make better decisions when investing in mentors. You can go back and watch episode 1 and episode 2. The episode 1, there's a little bit more of an introduction. I'm not going to bore you all because you're not here to listen to me talk about me. So you can go and watch that if you are interested. But with Mike and Azri, yeah, first thing is massive appreciation. And then second thing is a couple of things around, not that I need to say this, but I do want to say it, around like disagreements and things because we're all mature adults, but there is likely going to be some disagreements because you just work so differently. I said this on episode 1 and episode 2, and if there is any disagreements, it's not personal and we don't have to get our egos involved. But at the same time, speak your fucking mind. You know, I'm very laid back and kind of down to earth, and I think a lot of the people watching and a lot of the coaches watching will appreciate the openness and honesty. So yeah, don't leave anything unsaid at the same time. Yeah. Okay, let's get into it. Round number 1. In fact, I presume you guys being so busy haven't watched episode 1 and 2. I won't take it personal, don't worry. Um, what I will do is, or what I do is, well, actually, I tell a lie. I was going to say what I do. What I've done is episode 1. We had rock paper scissors to decide on who goes first answering the questions because I want to make this as fair as possible. I don't want anyone to be able to watch back any coaches and say, "Oh no, he was biased towards that guy or biased towards that guy," anything along those lines. So we had rock paper scissors. We won't do rock paper scissors because we're online. I'm going to flip a coin. Um, Mike, just because you were here first, you can choose heads or tails.
Heads.
Heads. It's tails. Asri, in round 1, do you want to answer first or do you want to answer second?
Let's go second. Let's let's
Oh.
start with Mike. Honestly, I haven't actually looked through too many of the questions. Are we going through the same format in there?
No, it's
Okay.
going to be dead natural, mate, to be honest.
Let's be as.
The notes that I sent over in the format is more for my memory. Because you know what's
Okay.
funny? I don't know if you've ever done anything like this, but it's actually really quite difficult, it's maybe just me, to manage a two-way conversation. Like listening, let's say when Mike's answering, listening to that, taking it in, firstly understanding it's difficult for me, and then thinking, okay, well, I've got to have a follow-up reply and steering the conversation, and all that. So it's really all my notes, but it's just going to be a dead natural conversation, mate.
Sweet as. Because I was about to say I'm pretty unprepared if it was off of off
No,
those
no,
questions.
no, 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 no,
No.
no, no.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
they are very broad questions as well. Like question 1, Mike, is what's the best way to get clients in 2026? And I know that's a very broad question, but I purposely want it that way. I want you to take it wherever you want, and we can just let the conversation roll out from there. Round 1 is all about social media, client acquisition, and marketing. So, yeah, what's the best way to get clients in 2026, Mike?
Um, I think the best way to get clients in 2026, in my opinion, is the same way to get clients in 2025, in 2024. It would just, in my opinion, to be a standout coach in your area of expertise. It would be by creating the best product that you can create. Um, Make sure it's watertight, stress test it. So-called create a non-leaky bucket so that people don't leave it and deliver the best results for a certain niche, and then be able to market that product. I see a lot of coaches that don't have that. And whilst they can pick up clients from kind of other methods, for example, I find that sometimes they do have a leaky bucket, which then leads them to other methods of lead acquisition. I feel like really dialing in, getting obsessed with client retention, getting obsessed with client results. I feel like when you start to retain people and deliver, you're more likely to get a result. You're more likely to get a referral. Um, if you're more likely to get a result, that will then obviously filter into your marketing. You'll then become more and more on demand. And then obviously showcasing that. In terms of social media outlets and platforms, I feel like there is a shift, in my opinion, kind of going on. Maybe we'll get onto that later on. But for me, it would be about showcasing then, once you've kind of obsessed over product, it would be about dialing in your marketing tone on who you want to work with and showcasing why you're the best coach for them. If you nail those two things, you'll win. Um, who I want to work with, why I'm the best coach. We have a heavy focus on organic. We don't do any focus on kind of ads or outbound actually. All of our client results, near enough bar none, I think, are done without the use of ads and without the use of sending DMs. Everything that we do is about positioning yourself in a market and then getting that message out there and then allowing people to come through. We feel like that approach is the way that we're able to generate better qualified leads in terms of allowing them to come in by their own accord. And we feel like therefore the leads are much easier to turn into clients and retaining clients as well. They're a better fit. Obviously, the question's relatively broad, but I guess I could sum it up in terms of making yourself the best coach for the specific sector that you want to coach, and then showcasing that on a number of platforms, essentially.
Fantastic. Well done. I like the answer, mate. Well done, as if I know more than you. I definitely do not. Azri, what's your thoughts on that, mate? Because this is again the beauty of this all is coming together is, Mike can say that and I can sit here as a coach and say, oh, well, that sounds logical. That makes sense. Uh, but I haven't got the skills, the awareness, the knowledge, the experience, or anything to even almost see the opposite side of the coin. You know what I mean? So, what is the opposite side of the coin? What's your views on that?
Somewhat agree, somewhat heavily disagree. So, good talking points. So, first things first, right? Of course, I would say the best way to get clients in 2026 is going to start with, of course, having a good product, having a good offer, good niche, right? But, like, put it this way, nearly everyone at the beginning has nailed down a good offer, good niche, good product, good service out the gate after like the first year or two if they're competent with building a product, right? So pretty much everyone. Like, let's be honest, how many people that come to you say they get great results, great transformations, they're the best coach in the world, but they can't get any clients. So, that's number one, right? So, of course, the baseline foundation is going to be how can we make sure we retain clients with a good offer, good niche. Now, the next thing is no ads, no outbound, all organic, everyone coming to you. Bit difficult to say that's going to be a business, in my opinion, because for a business, in my opinion, to grow as well, it has to have three main components of lead generation and client acquisition. So it has to be consistent, it has to be predictable, and it has to be scalable. So it has to tick all three of those things for you to consider something as a predictable client acquisition system that can grow for you to get clients, if that's the thing that we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So with organic, right, it doesn't tick those three things off, right? It can, of course, like, is it scalable? Yes, you can post more and you can technically get more followers, get more inbound leads, right? Given that the algo is working in your favor, given the scripting's done right, given the niche position is done right. Now, that means that it doesn't take off the predictable side of things and it doesn't take off the consistent side of things because there's no way we can say we can put more in and get more out. So with ads, with outbound, we have specific set KPIs on what we can actually hit. If you send out, let's say 100 outbound DMs and it's not cringy and it's not salesy and it doesn't sound pushy, salesy, and it actually sounds like a conversation. So we're talking about stuff that isn't, hey, appreciate the follow, you here for the content, you're looking to get in shape or anything like that. Right. We know out the gate pretty much everyone and their mum sends that right now. So if it is actually conversational framework where it's leading to getting them to jump on a call so you can actually help them and help them with your offer service, then it is at that point ethically getting them to their goal because people like having a conversation. Now, if you know metrics wise, you can send out X number of outbound messages, you can get a certain response percentage, which can be optimized. You can get a certain number of responses go to call offers, certain number of call offers to go calls booked to calls taken to calls closed, and then calls closed to new cash collected. Then we know that we can put more in and predictably get more out. The exact same with ads. Ads have a bunch of metrics that can be optimized for you to be able to put more in and get more out. Now, the fact of the matter is like, are organic inbound leads going to be warmer or qualified? Of course, 100%, right? But the only problem is you can't predictably get more of them. So after you've tapped out your organic inbound, then we're sitting on like, how's a business scale past there essentially. So it's going to be with a predictable client acquisition system.
Interesting, interesting. You mentioned two key words there, that predictable and scalable. Could you maybe divulge a little bit more about your thoughts on what they are? Because they're two words that are kind of thrown around in the industry a lot. I see them a lot with different mentors that we follow. So what exactly is predictable and scalable?
Is that for me or Mike? Sorry.
Yeah, Azri, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So if predictable number one is, first of all, you can consistently expect to put more inputs in and get more outputs.
Yeah.
So that would be what I would say is predictable. Scalable is something that doesn't bottleneck on the system, and it doesn't bottleneck on the founder, and it doesn't bottleneck on the team. So that means that you can scale past the actual specifics in terms of having coaches come in because the cost per client acquisition can be liquidated. It means you can have you can liquidate your ad spend and stay profitable within like a 70% plus margin, let's say, right? And can of course continue to scale that to infinite levels, right? Because there's a good reason why I feel as well that pretty much everyone who is in the organic space eventually moves to ads. Is because they've usually tapped out the volume of inbounds that they can get. They've tapped out what they can actually do with organic. Not that you can't take that far, by the way, just so you know. Like, I'm not saying that isn't far. It's just that there's no baseline without ads, in my opinion. And there's no baseline without outbound done properly.
Awesome. I can almost hear all of the coaches shouting, when do I know when I've kind of out like completed my inbound current following? Like, is there any signs to see when, yeah, you know what, I definitely have kind of ran through my audience almost and following, Azri?
Right. So it's pretty simple to be fair. It's like, are you sending more mess or like, first of all, have you consistently seen a trickle down in terms of inbound messages received? Have you optimized your organic to its absolute max? Can you do more and better of what you're currently doing with organic for you to dial that in as a client acquisition system? And then like, how aggressively do you want to scale, really? It's like, do we have the cash for us to be able to, and first of all, have we actually done outbound to maximize the cash we can get from an organic base as well? And then do we have the actual cash to reinvest back into ads, which honestly can be validated at 15, 30 quid a day, 15, 30, 40 quid a day. It's like at lower spends, if you know you can put £1 in and get 5, 6, £7 out, question is purely going to be how much can we put in, really? So at that point, it's just a matter of do we know our numbers? And the biggest reason why I think people are have a like fear around doing outbound, doing that, is they think they're going to sound cringy. They think it's something that's uncomfortable. They think it's something that they don't want to be that person sending messages. All of those, I think, are beliefs that keep people stuck at the 0 to 10, 20K range, in my opinion. Like scaling past that 0, 10, 20K a month range is purely going to be a matter of like how predictable and scalable is your client acquisition system. So if you're seriously trying to take a business to 50, 100, 200, 300K a month, right? It's not going to be, let's be honest, right? There's only so far you can get with organic. And then it's just a numbers game from there. And most people don't have the data. Most people are scared of the data. They're scared of doing things that are uncomfortable. They're scared of things that are pushing themselves outside their boundaries, their self-set boundaries. And it's all those beliefs that just compound again and again and again and just keep them in the same range, where they're just up and down within that range. And then, of course, there's anomalies that take off, right? All of my theses here is based off of, is this the thing that works across the most amount of people with the highest success percentage? So there's always going to be anomalies within inbound. We can always say like, okay, this person got to this amount doing inbound, but then can that process be replicated again and again and again? If not, then I don't see that as a system that can be put into another business to do again and again and again.
Makes sense. Mike, what's your thoughts on that? I know there was a lot there, but feel free to take it where you want.
Yeah. Look, I think this is I mean, this is everything that no doubt both of us teach. This is a case of niche. As we will be talking to his niche and the type of coach that he would want to work with, and vice versa. So obviously, like during this kind of podcast, there's going to be disagreements in terms of how we've currently done things. That's expected. I don't think there's anybody's right or anybody's wrong because we're both delivering results in a way that we would want to for our own clients. There's a couple of points that I kind of made. I think nearly every coach um, claims to be the best coach in the world in a year. If they do, I would say that that's misguided. That's not my experience of the coaches that I work with. I think everybody wants to be, and I think that that should be the aim. I think saying that once that's done in a year is slightly short-sighted. I think that there's always improvements to product. I think just talking out of reference for, in terms of how we did things and how we do things now, we had over 12-month retention rate on average in a fitness business with no contract. Never asked a single person to sign a contract in my life. And it was all done on kind of crafting, I guess, the product, the rapport, etc., and building a client base like that. So if a coach comes in, and I regularly see coaches coming in with retention rates of say 3 and 4 months, right? Specifically, people who have utilized ads and heavy amounts of outbound tends to see people kind of drop off at their contract rate, only to have been told by their specific mentor. And I'm not suggesting that this would be you, Azri, but I'm just talking in broad terms across the mentorship space, that the way to retain their clients is either to charge more upfront for a longer period of time or extend the contract. I tend to disagree with the product thing. I think it's going to take more than 1 year to be able to master the art of coaching, I think, and being able to make the right decisions at the right times. I think it spans beyond just what one might know nutritionally or training wise. So I tend to kind of disagree with that point. I don't deny that you can get clients with ads and outbound. I see it all the time. Of course I do. In fact, I think that 9 out of 10 of my clients come to me from other mentors that teach these principles. So again, I would kind of, obviously, me and Azri are going to speak from our experience in terms of, he will no doubt say, I get a lot of clients who have just focused on organic that want to go above that, right? Of course, that's what he's seeing. Of course, that's going to be happening, but also vice versa. The opposite is happening on my side. Of course, that's going to be happening, right? We both run, quote unquote, and I hate the term, mentorships. So it's fully expected. And the way that my marketing is set up, it's designed to capture people where ads and outbound hasn't worked, or maybe it's even ruined a business. I've actually seen businesses ruined by these principles. It's not to deny that they don't work in terms of getting in leads. I think the question that was started was, what do I believe to be the best way to get in leads? Not what are all the different ways to get in leads. I believe the best way to get in leads is to have the best product and to be able to market that product organically because I believe it brings in the best leads. If we're talking about all the different ways to get leads, I could go and drop some flyers around the local estate. Um, so I think I disagree with a few things, but I also understand the viewpoint as well because there are many different ways to skin a cat. I do feel like the predictability side of things comes in. Yeah, you're right. How do you make it predictable? We do. Um, Otherwise, those clients wouldn't stay. We use predictability and other methods in terms of bringing clients in. So we also know our numbers, but just in a different way. Those numbers don't rely on sending messages or putting money into ads, right? And that's okay. It doesn't mean that I'm right. It doesn't mean that I'm wrong. It doesn't mean that Azri's right or that Azri's wrong, right? It just depends on what your business wants it to look like. I'd also refute that you can't grow past a certain point. We haven't built our mentorship business on ads. No outbound. Any coach that's listening to this now will know that I've not messaged you. Like we've got a really, really healthy turnover and a really, really healthy profit margin. We had the same as fitness business. We've got clients turning over seven figures with no ads and no outbounds. So like I kind of just would refute that, and I think that whilst I think people should be open-minded to potentially other methods or other ways. I understand that you're gonna or Azri's gonna come with an approach and ideas that he's seen success with. And of course he is, right? Like, of course he is. That's normal. Like, and it's good to hear those things as well. And even for myself, right? I think that anyone listening to this should be open-minded to both approaches, right? So of course, Azri's going to come and say these things because he's got a lot of experience clearly with delivering results. Um, and I think that the people listening to this should just be open-minded to both sets. I think the question was, what's the best, in my opinion, method to get clients in? And that would be it. So yeah, I feel like I think you're correct. I think that you do need to be predictable and consistent, of course. And we have predictability and consistency to the point where I don't know anybody else's numbers, but I'd be hard pressed to find somebody that or another mentorship that kind of delivers the success rate that we would do in terms of return on investment. Um, and again, I've got no specific data to back that up, but I know as a percentage of my client base, the amount that would do pretty well, and you don't get that without predictability, in my opinion. So yeah, obviously a lot of good points from Azri, and I respect obviously the work that he does. Yeah, I think my answer to the question is always be focusing on what you can bring through the door, as opposed to going outside of that door to find. That would be the best, without discounting that you can go outside of the door to go and find clients.
Awesome. I think it's probably worth now at this point saying, let's talk to the coach that's struggling to get past whatever ceiling it is. Because you made some really good valid points there, Mike, in regards to like obviously the methods that have worked for you, your experiences, and so on and so forth, and that will be the differences between you two guys. Um, but if we talk to that coach who's sat there, who's following both of you on Instagram, and thinking these guys are both mentors, they're both successful, they both have very different methods. Which one do I listen to? Who do I go with? All I'm bothered about is because you're both very likable guys, so that kind of box is ticked. You both know they're very trustworthy. That box is ticked. So on and so forth. So it's very much like, okay, it comes down to the method. Which method do I want? And then also what's gonna, I guess, give me the life that I want. So let's talk to that coach who's hit that ceiling, whatever ceiling that is, and they're just struggling. But Mike, you mentioned in that there you've seen businesses literally ruined through different methods or similar methods like this. Not you don't have to obviously divulge names, even though it's a very open podcast and I'm very open as well. But yeah, could you? I'm kind of curious to know how, why, like a little bit more about that because that's quite a bold statement around a business being ruined by a certain method. that needs to be just spoken about.
Yeah, okay. Um, yeah, so the businesses that well, firstly, to kind of circle back on what should a coach who's listening to this, what, who to pick. My advice would always be, who do you resonate most with, and what business do you want to grow? Um, that's it. Like I would say those two things. This is again, this is not a thing where it's like, you must pick me. I'm holier than thou. I'm better than everybody else. That's not the case. Like I feel like with coaching, your best clients and your best client fit, so the clients that come through the door that genuinely, you can build a bond and a rapport with, that kind of are bought into your way of doing things, right? You're naturally going to get better results with that person. So if you're a coach sat at home and you find my account or Azri's account or any other mentor's account, my advice would be, see who you click the most with in terms of thought process, values, alignment, etc. Look at how you want to run your business. For example, if you don't want to do ads, and I'm not saying people should or you shouldn't, right? It's up to you. We run some low cost ads for our business right now. Like, this is not me saying ads are bad at all by any stretch of the imagination. Um, then maybe go and consider somebody like Azri or somebody else, right? If you want to have more of a focus on organic, and building up recurring revenue, which is probably what we're known for, then maybe consider myself. There's no right or wrong, I don't believe. Again, it's just a question of niche. So in terms of how I've seen businesses ruined, I've seen quite a few, to be fair, more than you would think. And by the way, I just want to caveat this by saying that not every business gets ruined by that, because I don't want to kind of strawman the argument. But I have seen businesses ruined where they've got accounts full, well, dead accounts essentially. I've seen people with decent chunks of followers that when I speak to them, they've been brought in by ads, um, or that they feel like they've spoken to everybody in their inbox, and their organic engagement's gone down, which means that they definitely are bottlenecked with organic stuff, because I've seen accounts, no joke, with 10, 11,000 followers getting 60, 70 story views. Good luck selling anything without the use of ads or heavy amounts of cold DMs to a really big scale. And it's often that organic engagement's often being exacerbated by, and as we brings up the case of, like, the cringy approach, and it's, the way he does stuff is not, down a certain path. And I don't know Asri's scripts or anything like that, or whatever Asri teaches. But what I've seen, and that's the only experience I can speak on, is that I've seen people reach out to people and kind of pester in DMs. There's a certain mentor out there that I won't name, where his ethos is keep sending messages until they either sign up or block you. To me, that's a surefire way of getting an account's engagement really pulled back, like really, really pulled back. And I've seen it work in the short term. And then over a long period of time, I found that things start to decline. Ads maybe stop working as well, which then you've then got to mess around with kind of, developing a new ad set, etc. Which again can be done. That's not me saying that's impossible to do, of course. Um, but almost like their organic platform, whatever it's been, Instagram usually, typically, tends to decrease. There tends to get less inbound in their inbox. It becomes a little bit cluttered, becomes a bit harder to find, and it becomes a volume game, right? It's a sheer volume game, and it's as we said, input output. Send 100 messages a day. Okay, for how long? How do you know whether Instagram doesn't change that tomorrow, in terms of in terms of the terms and conditions, in terms of what it sees as a spam account, in terms of what it sees as a bot account? You don't really know. Instagram engagement is going down in general, and people are spending less time on there. There's more and more ads. Like, we've got the data for that. I feel like that becomes kind of cluttered. I think you become one of many. And those are kind of the reasons that I've seen it kind of hurt businesses, notwithstanding the heavy amounts that I've seen, and reckless advice in ad spend. I've seen absolutely reckless advice. I'm going to bring one client up as an example of many, and I am not joking, many. His record month with a previous mentorship was £21,000. His expenses that month were £23,000. Horrendous. Like horrendous, right? And that's one example of the people that I see. Now, of course, Azri's not going to see that. Of course he's not, because he's going to turn up and he's going to talk about what he sees success with. That's the point of the podcast, right? So I don't discount that you can get results with ads and DMs. Of course you can, right? If I go and send 100 DMs today to 100 coaches, right, over the next month, am I going to sign 6 or 7 of them up? Yes, of course I am. I don't discount that. Of course I am. No problem. We just don't do that approach. We just don't like that approach as a long-term viable solution because of the potential negatives that can arise with account damage, etc., in the future. Potentially. So I don't discount that. The way that we've done things is exactly how we did things in our fitness business. So we didn't want to teach outside our scope of practice. We built a really successful fitness business. We had over 550 clients in the business at any one time. We scaled a team of coaches. We did it without ads. We did it without DMs. So we would be reckless to teach anything otherwise. So that's the way that we teach it, essentially. So yeah, that's in a nutshell, a very long nutshell, granted. That's kind of what we've seen.
Awesome. Cheers, Mike. Azri, what's your thoughts on that there? Obviously, again, a lot to go with there, so feel free to take it wherever you want.
Lots to go through there. Now, first things first, would very much want to clarify, which Mike actually clarified at the beginning there. We're talking to very different people, and I think that's a bit more a lot clearer now. So it's like, look, at the beginning, do I think organic is, and when I say at the beginning, for getting off the gym floor and first like 5, 10 grand a month, do I think organic is a good way to start? 100%. It's exactly what I did as well, right? We grew my main fitness IG to 160,000 followers, right? Not saying that we didn't push for organic first. Now, in that time, was I doing outbound to every single follower? 100%. Was I doing that myself? Absolutely not. I did at the beginning, hired the team setters, right? And then did I have every single metric to make sure that things were working? And that includes retention, that includes qualified leads, that includes the actual cost per call and the actual qualified calls taken, the margins on the business as well. So like super important point there, which I will jump into, right? We'll get into profit margins, etc. Because you're not like I 100% have seen horror stories from people with honestly, I just think bad info from generally people who haven't been that successful with ads, teaching ads. And I was pretty shocked at some of the horror stories coming to us with a lot of people who've had ad spend and just and even outbound methods, which were just dreadful. Like the stuff that's being taught out there, I honestly think is dreadful at the moment. It just like not to badmouth anyone. I'm never going to name anyone specifically at all. But
I think we might know the names though.
yeah, we know the names. We know the names. Right? Everyone knows, and it's just unfortunately our
Yeah.
space, right? So it's yeah, those are the people that come to us, right? Majority of the people, and then they have a successful business because they do things right. Okay, and look, there's a few points here. So retention, first thing being lower on people who are outbounders slash coming in colder through ads. Now, I've seen that in scenarios where the nurture process isn't as good in on the front end before they even jump on a call. So if we're looking at the differences between organic traffic and paid traffic, we're looking at it as a different of intent level based on the level of nurture and touch points that they've had with you as a brand, with you, with your content, with you putting stuff out there over a period of time. So it's the no like trust factor, right? I think what everyone is forgetting here is that can be artificially manufactured with ads. Like I don't know if you, Kieran, you follow my page for a while.
Yeah.
How many of my podcast testimonials have you seen? Like
Yeah,
maybe
quite a few, quite a lot actually. Yeah.
because we run retargeting ads for profile visit video views on all of our testimonials. My organic content as well, my talking head, all of this can be artificially manufactured. And when the numbers make sense, and when you can maintain that within profit margins, you can build a very predictable organic system which doesn't rely on the algorithm for reach. So that's number one on the level of intent of people coming in, which is why our clients who are running ads very successfully all have, of course, like good products. It's just one. Honestly, it's just one of our requirements for to jump in the program. Hey, we're not going to help you. Like, of course, we can help optimize your product and all of this. We're not going to help you build out a product from scratch. Like, it's just not what we do, right? It's everyone that comes to us already has good products, has validated clients already, right? They're good coaches. They're great coaches. Now, first thing is, when you have that artificially manufactured retargeting sequence layers in, as well as content, as well as your story CTAs, as well as your comment CTAs, like a lot of our clients that come to us have hundreds of thousands of followers. There's clients that have come to us millions of followers. Most of them have tens of thousands of followers, right? Everyone's already played the organic game. Then they realize that there is like there is a dip, there is a lack of consistency and predictability at a certain point. Not saying that what Mike doesn't work or anything like that. Just reference, right? And not saying this specifically on any point, but there is a need for a baseline for the business to grow. And the need for the baseline is so lifestyle is actually covered, the business is covered, your actual you have the ability to maximize potential of what you can actually take the business to in terms of impact, right? If everyone's goal outside of money here is helping as many people as possible, then are you capping yourself with your current situation, basically? Are you capping yourself without a system that you can leverage heavy, a system that you can push a lot harder, essentially, right? So that's one thing. And that also leads me on to um the people that, of course, I talked a bit about the people that come to us, right? There's usually people that do have like a decent base of clients, or that do have validated product, that do have all good coaches, right? They're already stuck at the 10, 20K mark, right? And they're usually trying to take it to 50s, 100s, 200s, right? Those are usually the people that usually come to us, right? So that's what I mean by we're talking to different people here. They've already played that organic game, right? So the next thing is scaling it past there. And I know you mentioned examples of people who have taken organic a lot further. What we've just consistently seen is that it's 10 times harder to do that across every single business. So when you try and push organic across every single business, then we can't predictably say more inputs here is going to lead to more outputs, because that's not our choice there. That's IG's algo choice, as well as, of course, content scripting, research, filming, and editing, and so on, right? Now, the moving further on there, you mentioned a bit on like charging monthly versus getting a higher cash collected up front. Now, this is 100%, I feel, on the basis of being staying within a certain range as well. So I do think that also keeps you within a certain range. If your AOV, the average order value, or the average cash collected per new client on a call on the first payment there, isn't at a certain level or isn't continuously increasing, then you're essentially playing a game where you are going to wreck your profit margins. It's very hard to cover the cost per acquisition of a client. It's very hard to bring coaches in. You'll eventually get tied into a busy job. So you become a busy coach instead of a business owner and a CEO, right? So if the whole goal of sorry about the balloons, I don't know why they just keep popping up.
Thought you were celebrating a good point.
The quick round of applause for myself. No, like the whole idea of being able to scale a business has to have the fundamentals here, right? The client acquisition system is one thing, the systems is one thing, the team that takes over the systems is the next thing, right? If we're not able to continuously bring in good talent who don't have to be overpaid, who can be commission based, who can be this, right? Bringing in good talent, hiring, onboarding, training, retaining good talent. These are things that are needed to scale a business, or you have essentially built yourself a pair of golden handcuffs. So you're working a high paying job, basically. You're talking to clients all day, every day. You've got 100 clients, and then how many more clients can you realistically take on as check-ins all day? Now, bringing in a coach, great. Now, how much is the coach going to be paid? If that's a significant percent of your margins, or if that is eaten into a decent amount of your margins, then you're going to constantly be on the back foot on not being able to reinvest into the business to grow it. And that's where we've seen like dreadful businesses in terms of margins come to us as well. This usually we've had, for example, take Davey. Davey came to us at like 80K a month and he had a 15% margin. So these are one of those businesses where we're like exactly what I'd say is like a ruined, I mean, not a ruined business. It's like a great product, like a great offer and all of this, right? It's just a 15% margin because everything we got taught before was like heavy scaling on ads, which just weren't productive. 4 months, sorry, not 4 months, 5.5 months later, 200K, 205K a month, 70% margins, right? Now, that didn't happen by accident. That's scale, that's profitability that's looked at, that's teams, delegation. Keep in mind at this point, he wasn't taking any sales calls, he wasn't coaching any clients, he wasn't doing any sets, and he wasn't doing anything there. He was basically just in content. Actually, he took a few sales calls at that point. He closes in place, setters in place, ads in place, outbound being done in place, and it was consistent, more importantly. I can give you 20 more examples of people who've very similar situations, usually at the 20 to 50K a month range, who we've taken to 100, 200K plus month, right? Every single time it's been we just have to make sure the numbers are dialed in. Pretty much everyone that comes to us absolutely sucks with data and numbers on every single metric that they need. And it's not surface level metrics we're talking about. We're talking about deeper metrics that actually give you insight on the business. And then it's hiring good talent. So that is a system on its own. Hiring is exactly the same as client acquisition, right? The job post is the content. The outbound is still the outbound. You still message those people to make sure they get onto a call. The interview is the sales call. You have to sell them the job. You have to make sure that they are sold on the job for them to consistently perform. And the fulfillment, the delivery, the client service delivery is the onboarding, the training, the management, the retention of the team member, right? If that's not done properly as well, then you have a leaky business, right? And then on top of that, the systems outside of that. How does every single thing in the business, how can you look at every single thing in the business as a process, which is very, very important right now with the age of AI. Like a lot of our business are just firing team members because we're able to systemize very, very heavily, process out everything basically for AI to take over a lot of roles. But anyways, that's a separate topic on its own. Now, look, I agree people should be open-minded to getting results. We've also had people come to us who are heavy organic, who maximize their heavy organics, gotten to 7 figures plus, 6 figures plus months. I don't think that's a bad thing, but they definitely didn't get there with inbound, if that makes sense. So it wasn't just inbound that they got to 6 figure months with, it was heavy outbound. And then you mentioned a few points on ads tanking organic. We haven't seen that be the case at all. It's like what we've actually seen be the case is some people who go heavier into ads, they put less focus on organic. So I'm not talking about a case where like organic isn't looked at. I'm not talking about a case where like ads and outbound is the only driver and then organic content isn't a thing anymore, because that doesn't work either. Because like organic content is a nurture piece for all of your advertising traffic. Everything works better with ads when organic is done well. That's why like we do put a heavy focus into organic, very heavy focus into organic. We have clients growing hundreds of thousands of followers, and we have clients who build huge brands alongside ads. Ads is the baseline. Organic is usually the supporting piece there once ads become the primary acquisition system and organic inbound becomes secondary. And nearly everyone that comes to us, there's a point where they realize that organic can't be the primary acquisition system because it doesn't tick off consistent, scalable, and predictable. I know we have different opinions on this as well. It doesn't tick off that from, in my opinion, the scalable aspect in the shortest period of time for the most predictable growth. So there's a big difference there. When I just mentioned shortest period of time as well. Shortest period of time is demonized heavily here, but I actually think it's the only way to scale because everything else is slow growth of the exact same thing. As we're just compressing the time frame essentially. So when we're talking about shortest period of time, you need to have a higher AOV because you need to be able to reinvest into business to grow it. I haven't seen this. I know multiple people. I have friends who are doing million, 2 million plus months, right? Not a single one of them got there with a lower ticket, mid-ticket offer. Not a single one of them. And I know people it's talking specifically about online fitness coaching who are doing 5 million plus a month, who are doing 10 million plus a month. Every single one of them, high ticket. And like you have to look at like, okay, how did they even get to 50, 100 grand a month within a few months, right? It wasn't organic. It wasn't waiting for people to come to them, right? That's usually how we get to like the beginning ranges to make sure that our head's above the water. And then we have like a job that we can rely on. Now, that being said, right, the I don't think organic's effective at all. It's usually the focus on organic number one. And I don't think that the IG algo kind of thing with outbound has been an issue. Our fitness business, we scaled to 1.2 million a year. That was at 65% profit margins, but I was doing nothing at that point because I was in med school. So had to delegate very, very well. So now I got very good at outbounds and ads and all of this and hit systems and teams. Now, at that point, that was what I called like freedom or whatever you want to call it. But at that point, we also were very, very heavy on making sure that every single thing in terms of best practices were followed for nothing in the ads for the DM space to have an issue at all. So there is I think the potential negatives, and I think the potential negatives that you brought up is more out of caution from not stepping heavy into that side of things, possibly from what I'm guessing. But I 100% agree with the fact that like there's different ways to skin a cat. If that's the way that you've 100% gone down, then that's also something I think you should stick to. Like I don't think I don't believe in changing something that's working, first of all. I do think there's fixing bottlenecks when it gets to bottlenecks, but if something's working, you run it into the ground. And if that was inbound slash organic for the whole way through, then 100% ram it to the ground and then build the secondary acquisition system until it becomes primary. So anyways, just my thoughts. Bit of a waffle from me there.
No,
So
that's good.
let me know if you get bored.
Yeah, no, it was good, mate. It was awesome. It was awesome. Mike, again, kind of feel free to take it where you want. We'll probably move on topics and stuff after this, but I think what's jumping out of me right now, again, listening as a with my coach's cap on, is kind of the bottlenecks and the ceilings that Azri's saying that we're going to hit with organic only. If you want to kind of tackle that in your answer, but feel free again to take it where you want, mate. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. Again, like it's one of those with these discussions, isn't it? Is that of course Azri's going to have got results using his approach and vice versa. So ultimately, you're gonna come and talk about what you know. I think one of the most pertinent points is that the organic side of things. Sorry, in fact, because I've got some notes down in front of me, Kieran, what did you want me to touch on first?
Uh, the so as we mentioned, golden handcuffs,
The bottleneck.
basically.
The bottleneck. Okay, well, I'll go with the bottleneck because that's the answer. Um, so again, I'm not anti-ads. I think that's again, it's not that I'm against ads by any stretch of the imagination. So there will be fitness businesses that like as we will teach that will do very well off it, and I'm open enough to be able to admit that. I think not being able to see how you can grow an organic business is mainly because maybe that's not Asri's experience because his business is set up to do those things. So as he mentions, as he was in med school, he was growing his business 160,000 followers, whatever. But he was heavy on the outbound. So I think sometimes it's hard to comprehend how it's done if you've never done that, and that's okay. Because again, I can sit here quite confidently and hold my head high and kind of say, no, we are doing that. Myself is doing that currently. Our clients are doing that currently. Lots of clients who have, as I kind of circle back to, 9 out of 10 clients come to me from other mentorships. The majority of those mentorships focus on ads and outbound. The minority of those mentorships focus on good organic. In fact, I'm yet to have a client come to me, considering I get 9 out of 10 clients from other mentorships. I'm yet to have a client come to me where I believe that the specific mentoring case has done a good job on their organic. So I think it's easy to see why organic would be bottlenecked if you've not really had experience. And I would probably suggest I wonder if as we've had a client from myself. I don't think so potentially. Probably because they're rinsing organic, maybe one or two. Who knows? Like there's a lot of crossover in the industry, but that's our heavy focus. So in terms of it bottlenecking, no, I agree with speed, 100%, right? If you get a really good product, I do not discount the fact that if you get a really, really good product, everything's watertight, people are staying, you're delivering results, and everything's in place, right? Do I believe that putting some paid ads can be adding fuel to a fire? Yeah, can be, yeah. Azri's going to see a larger percentage of those that have had success with it because that's what his mentorship's about. I'm quite clearly only going to see the people that it hasn't worked well for, right? Clearly, obviously, because if it had worked well, they probably would have stayed in specific mentorship, right? So we're both going to be biased in our own views, right? Of course we are. And if we weren't biased in our own views, we wouldn't be ethical in the things that we're teaching, right? So of course Azri's going to believe in his, otherwise he wouldn't be ethically teaching it, right? Of course I'm going to believe in mine, otherwise I wouldn't be ethically teaching it. So it's horses for courses. I think one of the points that I kind of pick up on is that it's very difficult to scale, to put money into, to reinvest into ads without taking up fronts. Um, uh, with a model that doesn't rely on ads, it's not that difficult at all. So we talk about a specific client that makes 200 grand a month. Certainly for my clients, they would want to know what they've got coming in monthly, in my opinion. I'm assuming, and again, I could be wrong in this assumption. I'm assuming, but as kind of as we've kind of touched on, is that he focuses on probably paid in full so that he can reinvest back into the business. And I'll show you how I would do it with my own business, right? So you can reinvest back into the business, right? Which for a lot of my clientele, what they've done is they've been in a mentorship before and seen a big month. A lot of them have seen a big month, and then their social proof is put all over social media. And what I tend to see is, yeah, but the next month I didn't get anything, or the month after I didn't get anything. And I'm sure Asri's also seen that as well, right? And again, um, I think we all know that the ones that are not necessarily teaching these things right. And I think that, you know, a lot of coaches are sucked in by the marketing of those things. So the £200,000 up front that was collected for the month, right? Now, if as we can, excuse me, help you generate a system where you're going to have stability across that, then superb. Like what an incredible business that would be to have £200,000 a month. He kind of also mentions about he knows people that do 1 million a month, 5 million a month. Again, I would suggest that the percentage of those people are incredibly small in terms of the industry. So of course we're all going to know people that do incredibly well, and of course there's going to be people that do incredibly well at high ticket. There's also probably people out there like your super influencers that will do incredibly well with low ticket. Your James Smiths, your Mike Thurston's, for example, right? That will probably do well with their low cost apps, right? You're going to be able to pick out people to suit your narrative with either way. What I would suggest is that in my opinion, and from what I've seen, it's a much more safe and more stable approach, right? And kind of as we rightly points out that it could be hesitation that stops people from diving in and the risk factor. Yeah, maybe it is, right? And if it is that a negative? When somebody's livelihoods are on the line, is it a negative? I don't know. Is it a positive? I don't know. Again, to kind of go back, it kind of speaks to the type of coach that would want to come through the door. So if I was to say, look at my business and do a paid in full, right? So let's just throw some, excuse me, some numbers out for maths. Um, let's just say I do £100,000 a month. And instead of charging recurring, knowing that I've got £100,000 coming in next month without needing to make a sale and £100,000 the month after without needing to make a sale, um, let's just say I charge my client base upfront for 4 months. So this month I now make £400,000. Um, and let's just say they all take it. I don't believe that they would, but let's say they all take it. And let's say I don't give them a discount either. So let's just say they all take it. So I now make £400,000 this month, right? Still the same £400,000 for 4 months worth of fulfillment, right? Yet I've now got to sell a hundred clients next month at 4 months upfront to make the same £400,000, right? So to sign up 100 clients in a month for 4 months upfront, you are going to need to take a portion of that £400,000 and put it into ads, right? So for the same £400,000 pro rata, one method, in my opinion, is collected over the course of 4 months and doesn't funnel it back into ads in our attempt to generate another £400,000 a month. And that's good, right? In my opinion, I've not seen many of that happen. I'm sure Azri has, obviously. again, to go back to who's coming into our businesses, if I was bringing in clients that had been successful for, well, they wouldn't be with me, right? So what I've seen is the 1 month and then nothing the couple of months after, and then it's been a real slog, right? So if I was to do it, I would need to put, I don't discount, I would need to take a chunk of that 400 grand, hire really well setters, closers, and put some money onto ads, right? But I've essentially taken a chunk out of the 400 grand I would have taken anyway in an effort to try to sell. Now, if I make one sale, right, you can argue that per 4 months, I've still made more money in terms of revenue, right? You then kind of go, at what point does that tip over into where's the profit? Where's the additional profit? And again, depending on your margins, who knows, right? And if Azri's team get great margins and say 60% margins at 400, you're talking what? It's going to be somewhere around, you'll be better at maths than me at med school, but it'll be somewhere around 240K, right? Let's just say profit. So I've got to make 160 grand over the next 3 months to kind of break even, let's just say. So the two different models essentially, and in from my experience, I know that I find a lot of comfort, as a lot of other coaches do, knowing that I've got £100,000 this month and 100 next month and 100 the month after and the month after, and so on and so forth, right? Um, so I would say that those are the things that I would say. Um, he touched on a kind of throwaway number that I kind of won't that I won't take two set in stone. I think he mentioned kind of not being able to scale past 10 grand with organic, and maybe that was just a throwaway when he said it. Or potentially I misheard. I don't know. Every single one of our clients does it without outbound and ads. Look at his page. Like we have we have we have clients doing significantly higher numbers than 10K a month. Recurring as well, like not just as a one-off month, not like a lot of mentors do this where they'll post a big month but then not show the next month, for example. So ours are monthly. But yeah, I think those are just the kind of points. But again, it's going to be one of those back and forth conversations, isn't it? Where of course Asri's going to generate results, otherwise he wouldn't have a job, and vice versa. And of course Asri's got different methods to me, which probably might appeal to a different standard of coach, or a different type of coach. Let's just say I know that the coaches that I work with, I don't think that they would want to take a step back from the coaching. So I think there was a clear difference there. I think you mentioned twice that that's without me doing anything in the business, just the outbound and the content. Okay. Or that's without him doing anything in the business, the coaching. The majority of my guys enjoy the coaching because that's what they got into the business for. They enjoy helping people. They get turned on by learning more, by applying more. And I think probably Asri's clientele, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but are probably more people that are looking to kind of grow big empires, right? And that are looking to kind of take the risk, dare I say it, and go all in and scale a team and deal with the probably stress of making sales and becoming a bit of a lead gen machine, basically. And whereas vice versa, I kind of get the coaches that want to do the coaching themselves, that are probably happy bringing home 20, 25, 30, 40K. We've got some significantly higher than that, but I would say the majority of clients that we work with push past 15K a month recurring. The majority, I think the last time that we did our stats, say over 50% had got there. So I think it's just a type of coach and what they want out of their business. And I think that we play the odds in terms of the likelihood of being able to deliver that result, I think, in terms of the broad spectrum of coaches that there are out there. We do help them with the systems, as we mentioned, that he doesn't. We do help them become better coaches. We do help them with retention. We do help them with client case studies. We do give our experience as coaches because we were coaches that have been in the industry a long period of time. So we work with a lot of clients. So we work with those guys, and I feel that on average, for the broader spectrum of clients or coaches within the industry, I feel like it's a potentially more successful in terms of a percentage ratio of building a stable business than get into those kind of like numbers where there's a lot of, I don't know, risk involved potentially. But good on those that do. Like genuinely, I'm all for people being successful. Good on those that do. And if Asri's kind of knocking out results like that, then absolutely fair play. I think it just all boils down to, again, I work with the guys that I want to work with, and Asri probably works with the guys that he wants to work with,
Mhm.
and that's okay.
Yeah, spot on. Nice one, Mike. Azri, final kind of comments on that. And again, there's a fair bit there. I think the big emphasis there for Mike was obviously what he kind of mentioned towards the end, which was this painting a picture of almost a potential risk of the not using the methods that Mike's uses potentially will yield more risk. I presume you're going to argue the case that with good data and things, it's no risk, and it's actually. I'd actually go now thinking about what you're saying. You'd maybe even argue that the opposite way. It's even safer. Is that true, or Azri?
Me, sorry. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah. Like there's a lot of things, right, that was mentioned. And first things first, I 100% agree with Mike in terms of like we work with who we want to work with at this point, which is why we built our businesses the way we do, right?
Hmm.
And once again, I 100% believe that Mike gets good results. But just so you know, like from what we've heard as well, Mike does get good results. Like we have a lot of people, we have a lot of people we've spoken with, of course, and yeah, Mike does great. So we haven't actually heard anything bad about Mike. And I can't say the same for a lot of other people in the space. So it's like, I mean, like, yeah, I would say almost 100% of people who've come to us have been with like one, two, three, four plus mentors, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's an interesting space, let's say. So which is a nice that's a nicer way to put it as I could
Round
as I
five is discussing the mentor and space, so we'll get onto all
could,
that.
could could go could go over a long run on that. But yeah, there's horror stories, which is why I believe there's only very few good mentors left in this space, right? In my opinion, like literally, you can count on one hand at this point. Now, first things first, like in terms of stability and predictability, right? And profit, what you're taking home. So I also don't. I 100% agree with you that there's a bunch of flashy monthly PB numbers which I think are bullshit. Like I think anyone can market like a monthly PB testimonial number. Now that like is honestly a useless number to me. I 100% believe on building foundations up, which is why I go heavy on like the quality of the team member, how they're trained, on board, and managed, because that is are those are the things that build consistency, right? And at the beginning, well, Mike's 100% right again. Like at the beginning, that means that you have to have a good product. You can't have consistency, good business without a good product, right? That is the base, right? The reason why we don't go heavy is we can go a fair bit into hiring coaches, make sure they can take over a good product and improve and streamlining. The reason why we don't go heavy into that at the beginning is because it's usually not a bottleneck for anyone that comes to us, right? It's just from our just from what I'm talking about here, right? What does become a bottleneck is improvement on the product, which I didn't talk much about. Now, I truly believe that you can't improve a product with just information. I truly believe you can only improve a product by making more sales, which is why I'm like, the faster you can improve a product is purely based on the more sales you can make, basically, because everything that you're making improvements on the product after base foundations are built and you can get a result is purely based off of opinion if you're doing it yourself. If it's actually improving the product, it should be based on feedback from clients, right, who have actually been through the product. So the only way to rapidly increase the improvement of a product is more sales. Now, more clients going through your program, right? Because everything else is opinion. Most people have done this, built out courses, built out modules, built out all this. Their clients don't give a shit. Like, let's be honest, right? They've just built out stuff that they like talking about, right? And they think that that's what consumption is, right? So, anyways, now the reason I went off track there in terms of stability and income and predictability, PB numbers don't mean anything. I think yearly numbers and profit numbers mean a lot. So, for example, I'll tell you Sarah, right? Spanish, but not a UK coach, but Sarah, she's at 15K a month. Took about half a year to get her to 77K a month, 77% profit margins. And that year as well, overall, she's at 700K. So with a 77% profit margin, right? Now, I'm not saying that, like, of course, I can pull in single examples all day, every day, right? We have enough, can do that all day with all our clients, right? Now, I should be a lot more clear in saying that in terms of good numbers, good margins, growth wise, we have a lot of tracking behind this because we AI a lot of it in terms of retention tracking and dashboards and all of this. Claude is taking over our entire, we have developers vibe coded in our business, making sure we have dashboards numbers on everything. Right. We have a 95% plus success rate now. So, like, in terms of what we've done in terms of building in predictable systems into businesses for growth, and we're talking about success rate in terms of actual, first of all, PB months. So PB months is 70% plus, right? And then second is success rate in terms of growth across every single business. So not every single client hits moonshot numbers, just so you know. Just if anyone has an expectation of coming into our business and going to 100, 200, 300K a month straight away or in a very short period of time in the matter of 3, 4 months, and we don't already have the foundations there, I will tell you, yes, we can get you there, but we'll absolutely crumble your business after 2, 3 months, right? Which is not how we build businesses. We build business of foundations for predictable scale and good profit margins. So there is security. And I do believe that's what security is. Now, in terms of security, what we didn't really dive into, which is key man risk, right? All of our clients also like working with their clients, right? But they only keep a handful of clients that they want to work with, right? Because after a certain point of scale, it's impossible for you to coach every single client, or you'll be in check-ins 8 hours a day, every day. And then if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, then how many clients of yours stay after 2 months? Zero, right? Of very few of them, right? And that regardless of how good your organic is, regardless of how good your brand is, how much they like you or trust you, they're going to keep paying you for nothing, right? So there is like a matter of key man risk, which isn't talked about, because if you're on the camera all day, every day, and that's 100% of your business, that's also key man risk, right? I'll tell you now, in this business, we did, last month was 250K a month, 8 something percent plus profit margins, and I didn't post a single reel. I didn't post a single piece of content the entire month because I had some stuff going on, right? It was we're building a lot of stuff, hiring a lot of stuff, right? So that was with zero content, not one single reel posted. You can go back on my feed, you can check on my IG. We scaled the two businesses very differently. The fitness business, like I played the organic game and I went down that route, right? And I knew where the bottlenecks were, I knew where the caps were, I knew where key man risk was. We played the ads game, right? And then we realized what predictability was. This business got to this point in 1 year, right? So there was 1 year from 0 to 250, right? And with the margin that we have, because I knew how to build things for speed, well, what I felt was going to be the right around, right? It wasn't from 0 to 250 organic, right? Now, the main point on that is not that it was like, and of course, like we're big goals. We want to get to 1 million a month. We're not nowhere near, like, I'm not saying I'm happy where I'm now or anything like that. Not bragging numbers or anything like that. It's just purely like how aggressively do we want to go to the next numbers? And I believe we have very good foundations for scale. Now, this whole idea of, like, having a lot of roles in the business, I don't think is productive in the long run, because I think security is knowing also that your business can run with you being able to take a few weeks off and go on holiday, with you being able to take a month off. And yes, that's built off of recurring without needing to get new clients as well. But it can also be built off of this business that can grow, not just maintain, but also grow without you. So a business that's able to grow without you and consistently, predictably bring in clients without you is also a key part of making sure that you can build a business that scales, that isn't necessarily risk-based, right? Because at that point, the difference is, like, if you get hit by a bus, essentially, right? Which one's about that sort, right? Now, of course, you can build that with recurring business as well. Of course, you can have leverage in a recurring business. Now, the main thing is, what I'm honestly really looking at is, like, purely at this point, we're talking a matter of difference of speed of scale. That's it, right? I truly believe that everything that we're talking about, Mike and I, very much align, and we're just talking about the difference in terms of speed of scale and aggressive growth, really. So usually when we have aggressive growth periods like this, because first of all, beliefs have to be shifted hard, beliefs have to be shifted heavy as well, very quickly. It's a psychological game more than anything else, because regardless of all the numbers lining up for scale, the founder still has to push the button. The founder still has to scale the spend within the certain margins, even if they're an 8x ROAS. Like everything looks comfortable there. But then if there's no one pushing them, challenging them to make sure that they take it to the next level, then they stay bottleneck there anyways. Right. So regardless, that's like the differences between speeds of scale anyways. And then the more collects up front versus not, there's going to be a difference in opinions on like how the people feel about that. And I honestly think that's generally a matter of people either compensating for level of sales skill. So it's like the level of sales skill on a call as well. Like I've seen in general more recently as well, there's a refusal to get good at things more recently. I think people are very comfortable more recently. And I don't really agree with that anymore. I don't like any of my clients getting complacent. Like we've seen it again and again, and I call everyone out on it all the time. Right? They're at 50K a month, they're taking home 35, 40K, lifestyle's covered, they're living a good life. All of it's great. I don't think there's any place for complacency in business at all because everyone's acting like their business is going to survive forever. Everyone's acting like they can't get absolutely taken out of the market because everyone's going to outcompete them with AI ads in the next 2 years. Everyone thinks that they're going to have like a monthly income forever, which is why I'm like, everyone, honestly, in my opinion, should be going for aggressive growth because the whole goal is to collect as much cash in the time window where we are at our peak performance, where we are able to perform at our highest level, and we have the mental clarity to be able to do so. We have the willpower to be able to do so. We don't have anything, hopefully, that is basically destroying any other part of our life to take away mental bandwidth for the business. So we're all playing within compressed windows, and that's never obvious to anyone until something bad happens to them, until their IG account gets shut down and they didn't realize that they don't have any organic anymore, which has happened a lot recently, by the way, until they realize they need to figure out another client acquisition system, which doesn't rely on just them, or until something bad happens in their life where they get into a bunch of debt from something with a personal life, whatever it is, right? Then like the pressure's actually on what this entire game was really about. It was actually collecting as much cash as possible for you to be able to invest into passive income streams so you can pull out 5% per year and then you can retire, basically, right? But no one really has that in their head when they're like, okay, my head's above the water and I'm comfortable and I can just live my life. I don't think that's true. I really, really do not think that's true. And the first thing I always hear is like the product's going to carry the business for the next 10, 20 years because we've got a good product, because we've got a good brand, because we've got good authority. I've yet to see that happen. I mean, like, I've yet to see that happen across like a 20-year timeline yet, 10-year, 20-year timeline, because when I started in the fitness business 7, 8 years ago now, there was maybe like I spent over 120 grand in mentorships, right? I've been through nearly every single one in fitness business mentorships. Nearly every single one that I've started with my first mentorship, there was three of us that survived. There was maybe 1,000 of us, right? Three of us survived. It was me, and the other two are clients of ours now. So it was like I do truly like play the odds in your favor. Like, yes, you might have a business for the next 10, 20 years. Like, are the odds likely? I wouldn't bet on it. I wouldn't bet my kids' life on it. I wouldn't bet my kids' retirement on it. I wouldn't bet my kids' school fees or anything on it. I wouldn't bet anything on it. So I would purely look at it as like, how much cash can you collect so you can put it into investment, so you can put it into real estate, whatever, so you can put it into index funds, and then pull out how much you need per year. So if you need, let's say, if you need 10 grand to live comfortably per month, then you essentially need 2 million invested ASAP, basically, for you to fuck off and retire, basically, right? So then if you need 20 grand a month to live comfortably, you need 4 million invested so you can pull out 5% per year, which is usually, I'm talking rough numbers, I don't know if my maths right there, but you need a certain amount invested. And it's just like a speed of how quickly can we get that invested so you have options. So you don't actually have to live in your job. And it's one of those things, honestly, like our clients, I have to call them out heavy on this because a lot of our clients are in Dubai right now, right? And it's just very easy to get distracted by lifestyle. And lifestyle is just shiny objects everywhere. And I think it derails a business heavy. I don't think most people have, I'm very, very grateful I was been able to. I don't think most people have focused efforts to stay in the game for 7, 8 years plus, right? Which is like something that is where I'm like, if you don't aggressively push yourself, then you get to a point where complacency leads to decline. But those are my thoughts on business in general, just how
Awesome.
I view it.
Fantastic. I think the kind of key standout point there for me, mate, was if I'm kind of reading between the lines just a little, is collect as much cash as you can right now because basically shit is going to change and you need to secure your future, right? Um, that's an interesting take I've never kind of heard before. So yeah, really good, really good. Um, Mike, thoughts? What's any key points you want to?
I agree with loads of it actually. And yeah, thank you for saying that you've not heard anything bad. Likewise, which is a rarity. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, like there's loads. It's actually refreshing to hear. To be fair, so I don't know whether Azri knows that I'm kind of in the same thought process as you. I think it comes down to speed. To be fair, so like you mentioned, you mentioned a few figures in your business turning over roughly what, quarter of a million, something like that, with I want to say 60 something percent profit margin. Congratulations. It's a mega business. I'll talk to you about our business. So we do 200 a month, so the revenue's slightly down. But ours is an 85% profit margin. So we're probably coming home with similar profits. You mentioned not posting a reel. I've not needed to make a sale. So I've got a waiting list until February. On that waiting list, there's the equivalent of £50,000 a month that I would be able to bring on if I opened up another day. I only work 4 days a week. I take three off. So if I opened up another day, I'd be able to bring on the people on our waiting list, not just mine. Um, so like we both similar levels. I definitely think Azri's got higher aspirations in terms of where he wants to grow the business. And again, like just listening to the for the last what? How long's it been? Fucking hell, it's been an hour and a half.
Mate,
Jesus,
flies.
fucking hell, you weren't kidding.
Yeah.
I like for what it's worth, I actually think he's got his head screwed on, unlike other people. I think a lot of what he say, I definitely agree with. He focuses on yearly, he focuses on profit. I love that. I love that. I think that's great. I don't know whether Asri knows where I am actually retiring next year. So it's funny that he brings up kind of like get in and get out type thing. That's been our approach. Our approach, I'll have retired, after kind of 12, 13 years in the industry. Um, I think that's quite quick. Like on my time frame, I think that's quite quick. I think I'll be retired at 40. Obviously, I'm a bit older than you. I spent 9 years in the military first. But I'm pretty happy with that. I think a lot of people would be quite happy with that. Um, we also kind of direct our clients to maintain healthy profit margins. In fact, they're all probably similar to us, kind of 80-90% margins. Obviously, notwithstanding tax, if they're UK based. Um, but post-tax kind of margins. Um, we also kind of encourage without directing people to invest their finances because we're not qualified to do so. But yeah, we're in a similar vein, right? I also don't think that it will last forever for mediocre coaches. I would agree with that, right? I think that AI is coming, and there's fat loss drugs out there now that are readily available. Um, Content is swamped with the same coaches making the same content, right? There are ads making, sorry, there are coaches making the same ads that are becoming spammy. Instagram's declined for the last 4 years in terms of reach and viewership numbers. This was the first quarter that there's been a decline in user numbers on Meta. So not just viewership numbers, for example, for anyone. You probably still have a Facebook account, you just don't use it, so you're still classed as a user, but you're not spending any time on there. So the time spent on there has been declining. But now also this is the first quarter that users have declined. So essentially, there's a shrinking marketplace, you can say that, or at least on one platform. I think that we should probably move to a different platform at a certain point. Um, and there's more and more coaches. I think there's more coaches now than there were 3 years ago. I think we'd all agree with that, which means that there's heavier competition. So I do think some people should panic, to be completely honest. So that's why we heavily focus on product and retention. So as we mentioned, tracking a lot of data. We also track a lot of data. Um, one of those things being current retention rates and churned client retention rates, looking at bottleneck and looking at lifetime value and looking at sweet spot pricing to set up for that. I think good coaches will always be needed in my mind, right? So that's kind of what we optimize for. We optimize for businesses that probably aren't looking to scale to 1 million a month, right? Because they're so few and far between. And maybe Azri is working with those guys. And again, to reiterate, like really good luck. Like I don't um I don't deny anybody the chance to be successful. Fitness has changed my life and my family's life beyond measure. So I literally do not begrudge anybody success. The type of client that we work with are the people that probably want to get to 20s, 30s, 40s a month on a recurring model without the stress of having to make sales next month, that they can have really, really healthy margins, 80, 85, 90%, that kind of thing. Take a lot home that they're earning. Have coaches. We also, make sure that our coaches at certain points bring on coaches. Absolutely. And fucking hell, if you get a garbage coach, it's an absolute fucking nightmare. So I completely agree with quality of hire, massive. We've got two great coaches who handle the fatless side of our business still and do some kind of stepping stone mentoring for us. Um, so to be honest, I agree with lots of what as was just said. Like I actually feel like there's not really any arguments, to be fair, which is probably crap for the viewers. You should have got somebody else in. I think we could have both had a bit of a go, but I agree with all of it, to be honest. Like
Awesome.
good profit margins, like PB numbers, like one-off months are bullshit. Like usually that's somebody inflating numbers. Like it's usually somebody making it feel like the business is more successful than what it is. It's usually someone that said, your current client base, charge them up front for 4 months. And then they've gone, look how I've taken them from 10 to 40K. Okay, yeah, but what about the next month, right? Show that proof. So I just think we're quite aligned with a lot, and I think it just is a case of different ways to skin a cat. And I feel like the maybe the clients that Azri would want to work with because of his own probably passion and the way that he wants to drive his business forwards. And he's much younger than I am, obviously. I can't wait to retire. Um, so I feel like there's lots of similarities, and I feel like it's just slightly minor differences, to be completely honest.
Yeah, no, awesome. Let's address your wait list, Mike, because it's caused a bit of conversation. I won't say controversy, but conversation. Uh, and even on the last episode, it got questioned really around is it even true? And you've obviously posted about this. I've seen it on your Instagram around it's not a market employee. You are retiring. You do have a wait list now. I know when obviously you talk about having a wait list. I think some people with a real business mind would say that's just bad business. If you've got people literally knocking on your door saying, I want to pay you cash, you should take the cash off them and make a system to be able to take them in, right? But I think at this point, I'd like to say you've obviously showed me the proof of the waitlist, so it is official. It is a real thing. But waitlist wise, do you want to explain kind of why you went down that route and why you haven't took them on?
Sure. Look, I feel like it's probably easy to query what any mentor says these days because of the lack of integrity across the board. So it's no surprise. And I think that the two mentors in question that questioned whether I had a wait list tells me a lot about their ethics, right? It tells me what they would do or not do. Um, so yeah, what an idiot I would look talking about having a wait list until February and then getting on a call with somebody and signing them up next week, right? What an idiot I would look if that was. Do you really think that that would be the case, right? That I'm loud and proud about having a waiting list for a period of time, and then, oh, actually, you can get in. I'm assuming that because their businesses potentially where their businesses are, they can't comprehend not taking somebody's cash up front. I'm happy to forego that cash. Like, would I like another 50 grand a month in my bank? Yeah, I would, yeah. Um, wouldn't know anyone. I think that's fine. I'm foregoing that to know that there's security there because I am retiring. So as we will know this, right? So um, talks about investments. The closer you get to retirement age, the risk of your investments comes down. Simple, right? You can be higher risk in the beginning. It's going to potentially get better returns. But you've got more distance between yourself and retirement, so you can ride the waves. Why would I want to ride any waves now? I've got spaces between February and June to sell. That's it. I'm taking no more people on, and that's it. So the post that I made, I obviously got a lot of people kind of backing it up. I was on the waiting list for 5 months. I was on the waiting list for 6 months. I'm currently on the waiting list. Blah blah blah. So it's clearly not bullshit, right? So the reason why I've done it is stability, security. I also don't want to water down my service, right? So this is where me and Azri will probably differ in terms of if he was mentoring me, let's just say, it'd be interesting to see what he would say. My gut instinct for the majority of people would be, well, hire somebody to take that those people off the waiting list, right? Like upskill them, make them as good as you, as close as to be able to deliver results in the same fashion, right? That seems to be the most logical solution, right? So that you're not leaving 600 grand a year on the table. Some of that 600 grand can be paid, and then some of that 600 grand could be invested, and I could retire even sooner, right? So there is an argument for that, right? Of course there is. Um, but I still work with clients on a one-to-one basis. So I'm capped at 100 clients, right? And the argument is you've got a high paid job. I've seen this before. You've got a high paid job. So it's very high paid, yeah. It's quite good. I'm able to retire at 40. Like, yeah, okay. Like as though it's some kind of negative or slight against me that I'm the one that does the mentoring. I do the mentoring because when I came into the mentoring space, I looked around at everybody else and was like, nobody actually does the mentoring. Like, they're just palming people off to success coaches. A lot of those success coaches aren't qualified by any amount to be giving advice. Hence why there's probably a lot of horror stories in the industry is because the mentor becomes too good to do the fulfillment, in my opinion. They don't train their staff up well. The staff are not completely bought in my experience, because they've also got their own fitness side gig on the go, which is going to be their bread and butter, right? And that's where the poor results come from. So myself and my business partner were like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it our way, and we're going to do the coaching because we're not above it. I actually believe that I can deliver the best results more. I believe in my ability to deliver results with them more than I believe in my ability to be able to manage and upskill staff to be able to replicate that, right? As we might be able to do that more effectively than me. Hold my hands up. Cool. It's not the model that we wanted, so I've never needed to do such a thing. We've got a fitness business running with those coaches. They're great. But in terms of the mentoring, just never wanted to do it. I just wanted to do it like that. So if I brought on that waiting list, I would then water down my service. My brain capacity wouldn't be able to handle more than what I currently do. So I'm happy with that. I work 4 days, I get 3 days off. It's a nice balance for me. I've got something at the side there that I know that if I get two people leave next month, that I bring two people on from the waiting list. I don't need to make any sales. I'm always miles in front. We've got really healthy margins. As I mentioned, we've got probably similar businesses in terms of profitability, certainly on a 1 month snapshot that Azri's kind of shared. Um, that's why we've done it. Like, that's it. If I wanted to scale to £1 million a month, I would do things differently. Of course I would, right? I don't want to scale to £1 million a month. I'm happy with 200 grand a month, right? Because I can retire next year, so it's fine, no problem.
Awesome. Azri, if a coach is listening to that thinking, oh, I might start a wait list and follow Mike's methods, what do you say? Is there a better way of doing it?
If you have the lead volume and you haven't got the coach. By the way, I 100% agree that a watered down service is the main reason for the industry being as shit as it is now.
Yeah.
Like it's like first of all, also in the one-to-one on the back end, so it's something I just refuse to step out of, because I also think that not that I don't think my my team are good because first of all, we just didn't hire people who already have businesses, so 100% efforts there, and they're also very, very, very specialized. So like the best of the best we can possibly have. As in they've built $2.5 million business in the past. We've had guys won the school games, and people close millions and millions in sales, right? Now, the reason why I also think that like if you have the lead volume, yes, you don't need to sell every single person on there straight away. It's because like your integrity in the space is the only thing that lives, right? Because we've seen over the years how many mentors have been up and down, let's say, and have we heard this and that about, right? And then we look at their actual margins because they can't retain clients as well because of the service. We've seen what negative word of mouth does to the business, to a business, and to an entire industry, honestly. But because you know what the whole mentorship thing sounds like, we don't even want to say the word, but or associate with that word right now because how bad it is right now. But yeah, we've just seen negative word of mouth is the biggest thing that will destroy a business, whether it's now or whether it's in a year. So it's always something to keep in mind. You can't outmarket negative word of mouth. You just like even if you're running ads, like your ad costs will go higher, everything will go down. You won't even be able to sell in the first place. So it's like it's not something that so I built this entire business side note, I built this entire business off of every single thing I've seen gone wrong in every mentorship I've been in as a fitness coach, which was like very, very easy to outcompete in this debate because it's like can you deliver a good service and get good results? It's like it's the basics that people apparently miss, right? Now look, the successful coaches in the space are the ones that will survive in the long run based off of number one, right? Can they retain clients, of course. Number two, their predictable acquisition. I think we've already spoken about there's multiple ways to do this as well. And then number three, like what they're building for, if they're aligned with what they're building for. So I believe, Mike, tell me if I'm wrong on this as well. I believe we're more aligned with knowing that we want to retire. We know that it is like collect cash and invest game compared to most people because our head's been above the water for a long time. Right. So it's like we haven't been let's say struggling for leads when we're struggling to get clients in for a while, right? Now, I do think that there's a lot of people who aren't in that mental space yet, and it is just like an aggressive um uh, a push to grow, or the other balance where it's like the complacency sets in very easily, and then like they have no reason to grow kind of thing. And I do think the successful coaches have like a good balance of both, in my opinion. They're not like they are optimizing for work-life balance. Also, by the way, myself, I have a good 3 4 days blocked out completely. I don't do anything. It's just like I made those mistakes as well. It's like you can only ram yourself into the ground for so many years, right? And then when you realize that like when you're aligned with what you're building for, you can last the long run. So it's like if you know what you're building for, whether that is to retire at a certain age, whether it's to hit certain revenue targets in a business, whether it's to hit certain impact goals, whatever it is, as long as you're aligned, you'll survive because you have a reason to keep going. And I think it's only when complacency fully sets in, there's no more reason to keep going. And there's no more reason to reach a certain point or reach a certain age that you want to retire, reach a certain, let's say, goal of lifestyle that you want to get to. And then that's when I generally, in my opinion, from what I've seen, I generally see things decline. It's just the lack of reasons. And approaches are taken differently based on the time frames that you want to hit certain targets in and set time frames that you have certain goals for. That's all.
Cool. Okay. I want to come back to.
Sorry, Kieran, we must be very boring because we're a bit too aligned on a few too
No,
many
no,
things.
it's actually nice to see
Yeah.
how polar opposite methods you've got, but there's still alignment within there.
Yeah, like I agree. Like it is quite nice to see. Like to be fair, and I think that if it was another match, I think it might be different, and I would probably I'd probably, for example, if I got some of the names that we both know, I could probably refute some things that they would be able to say. and going back to the point, I've never heard a bad thing about Azri, so I can't say anything and go, well, no, that's not true. Um,
Same here. I can't necessarily say bad thing about mine, but if there was someone here, which I believe Kieran mentioned, they fair few people declined after
Yeah.
the matchup.
I heard that as well. Yeah, the same one. Yeah.
So, so,
It
yeah,
seems
so
like
it's
now, I guess the coaches who are looking for a mentor, it almost it's funny because I started this podcast to help coaches realize the pros and cons of different methods where now it's coming out that it doesn't really matter about the method, it's more about who can you just trust, who can you you know
Probably.
what I mean?
Yeah. Like literally, probably. I'd say yeah, because again, I think I've been open and said, of course you can get clients through ads. Of course you can. Lots of businesses run ads incredibly successful, bigger businesses than both of ours. Of course you can. I'm not stupid. Like I'm old enough and fucking been around long enough to know that of course you can run a business and you utilize ads. Same with outbound. Like, as I alluded to, of course, if you send messages and you build rapport with people, I believe that you can. It's from my side of things, I'm yet to see a mentor be able to deliver that what they're saying, right? Because all I see is horror stories. And again, of course, I'm biased because I'm only going to see the horror stories. If it wasn't a horror story, they wouldn't be with me. So it is what it is, and it's kind of like again, I think both approaches work for growing businesses with the clients that we work with that resonate with our values, our message, our personality, etc. The business that we've previously had, what somebody's willing to do and be prepared to do within their business or not. It is what it is. I think as long as that mentor can deliver on the promises, no problem. Like if some of the other mentors, the shadier stuff, delivered on those promises and was able to close 20 qualified leads a week, if you're able to deliver on that, fucking well done. You're better than me. Like I will hold my hands up and go, you're better than me. But clearly you can't deliver 20 qualified leads. Otherwise, all of your fucking coaches in your mentorship would be fucking millionaires and they would never leave you. Yet they are hand over fist. So it must be really confusing for someone sat in said mentorship looking at their mentor talking about how easy it is online to grow and how easy this is and scale this and 20 qualified leads and adds that. And they're sat there with fuck all. Must be really difficult. I'm I'm pretty honest and pretty open because I've got no reason to not be and go, no, I think it is hard to grow a business. You should expect it to be hard. And as Azri says there, I think quite a motivated guy, obviously, in terms of not allowing his clients to get complacent because he recognizes that it is hard work, right? You've got to keep pushing. You can't take your foot off the gas because you can't. Like, you absolutely cannot take your foot off the gas. You've got to build a system as he's built his system the way that he has so he can take 3 or 4 days off. I've built my system the way I have a different system, but I can also take 3 or 4 days off, right? Because I know that I've got this waiting list, etc. Right? We've both done the same thing in different ways. And I think we both preach the same things. Like, I think, Azri, again, correct me if I'm wrong, you'll want your clients to be super efficient, super productive, head in the game, focus on product, right? Like, you don't lose with that, in my opinion, regardless of whether you're using ads or regardless of whether you're using organic. Like, I think we're quite good at being able to help people generate organic content that's able to showcase that, right? And circling back to a massive point ages ago was kind of using middle funnel ads to do that nurture. Bang on. Agree. Like, yeah, agree. Like, so I don't think there's just as many disagreements because it feels to me, and again, I've only got this hour and 45 minutes to go off, but it seems like everything that it's doing is great, to be
Yeah.
honest.
You mentioned before,
Kieran,
Azri. Sorry, go on. We're gonna say something.
sorry, I was going to say, Kieran, you must love this conversation. It's nothing
No
to.
fireworks.
Yeah,
What are you going to put in
no,
the trailer, man? Fucking hell.
We'll
I
just
was
at the
about to
end.
say,
Go on. Sorry.
yeah, no, go for it, go for it. You
I was
go.
gonna say at the end we'll just have to like artificially cultivate something where
Argument, yeah.
yeah
Yeah.
we'll just pretend it and I'll just crap that bit and that can be the trailer.
I'll walk off and throw my chair and then have that as a trailer.
Class. Looking at the pros and cons though, because even though there is so much alignment, you mentioned before, Azri, about I think you called it key man risk, about if someone was to get knocked over by a bus, and then obviously that may affect the business. Um, can we delve a little bit more into that? Because I think that's quite an important thing where if someone was ill or they were injured or whatever, they didn't have any staff, like how could they? It's probably more of a question for you, Mike. Really, how could they get around that not affecting the business?
I'm optimizing, so hopefully my clients don't get hit by a bus first and foremost. Road safety is paramount. So yeah, look, um, of course, right? If I got hit by a bus tomorrow, right, who would service my clients? Yeah, great. Um, in those unfortunate circumstances, you would be it would be really, really handy to have a business that runs exclusive to you. Of course it would, right? And if that's the type of business that Azri is building, then again, superb, and he can do that at pace. Great. I've also got coaches that have got three and four of their own coaches, right? So I don't disagree with it. I don't go, you, the coach, has to do all of the coaching clients. That's not true. I go, right, how many clients would you like to work with, right? On an ideal week. And that will change coach to coach, right? Some say 40, well, some say 20, some say 20, some say 30, some say 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, right? I let them do what they want to do, right? How many clients do you want to work with, right? Cool. You accept that risk of how many clients that you want to work with. And then once we're at that number, we start to hire staff. And then we fill your staff up, right? In a major case of emergency, not that I can speak from experience because I've not had that, you get your staff to coach. So simple as that, right? Like if you've got a business that's gotten to that level with staff in there, no problem. In a less sinister way, one of my clients, six-figure business owner, has just gone and had a baby. To which that she needed to kind of pivot in terms of where her clients are being fulfilled. She's gone away, had a baby, took maternity, took time off, come back, still got a business because the clients were coached by her staff, right? I don't think there's anything different that we're saying. Like again, I think I don't want to be misconstrued as saying, it's a one-man band coach. That's not the case. I would probably say that at least half of my clients have got coaches that work for them. So yeah, I think it's similar, is what I'd say. I think maybe the slight difference, again, I could be wrong here, is that I've heard Asri mention about doing a lot less than maybe what some of my clients would do one to one, right? In terms of being more available marketing wise, etc. Which is true, right? If I got, let's just say, if I went to Alex Ormezi and I said, "How do I grow my business?" What would he say? He would say, "Pass off some of your clients, hire coaches or hire a team to be able to fulfill that small downgrading service with me, and then upgrade the service back, right? Put more of my time into marketing, flood the marketplace, look more into ads." Of course, it would say that, right? So I know that that's the right business decision, right? In terms of the regular format of growing a business. But I definitely don't want to be misconstrued as kind of saying, oh, it's just you're a one-man band and thou should coach 200 clients because that's not the case. I let them pick. That's the difference. And when they pick, that can be malleable. And sometimes they pull it down. Sometimes they pick up again. Um, and obviously, ultimately, you get 100% of the profit of a coach that you coach yourself. In my experience, from people who've been in bad mentorships, have been told to make too early of a hires. I'll give one example. A guy came in, he'd been in a couple of different mentorships actually. He'd got 80 clients in the business, he was coaching 40, and his other two coaches were coaching the other 40 between them. Um, I was like, could you coach those 40? He was like, yeah, I've got loads of time. I was like, right, okay. So your retention rate of your two coaches is not the same as your retention rate. The results that they're delivering is not the same as the results that you're delivering, and you're taking a portion of the profit. I was like, okay, so immediately we can make some changes to this business and actually do more of the coaching, right? Which he wanted to do. If he'd have said, no, I don't really want any more than 40 personal clients, I'd have said, no problem, right? So we then get him up to 80 clients. He's then got a healthier profit margin at 80 clients, and now he's bottlenecked to 80 clients. And now we're looking at other ways to scale it to scale his business, right? So now it's a more suitable time, in my opinion, and probably then depends on quality of hire, like as we said. Like you can get lumbered with really poor coaches that don't really want to do anything, that the retention rate's not great and they deliver no results for your brand. that's dead weight in your business. And no doubt, if Azri is proficient at managing staff, he'll have the same thought process as me. Well, that staff member shouldn't be in the business, right? And then hire somebody better. And we made the same mistakes. Our first staff hires were not good fits for our business either. We've now got two members of staff that do superb jobs, like that pull us in a lot of money. I believe I wouldn't want to quote figures because I haven't got them in front of me, so I'm not going to say, but significant amounts of money into our business that Jake and Jake bring in, and they deliver quality, and they are quality. They've got their own podcasts, their own YouTube, they write their own emails, they do their own lead magnets, like they make their own content, they deliver to a superb standard. So having a great coach is worth its weight in gold. So if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, Jake and Jake could definitely do some whilst I was in plaster cast until I got back, and then I would take back over. I don't think there's any differences, right? I think it's a no-brainer.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Azri,
I mean,
question for you, mate, because I think one of the standout things here is between the methods anyway, is speed. Mike kind of painted a picture before around there may be more risk and potential more stress with like ads and staff. I'm going to presume you don't think that's the case, maybe?
hold on, just me. So I've been making notes really slow as I go through, just so I can. I lose my train of thought very very quickly, and
Yeah,
as you probably realize, I waffle a bit too much.
Me
So
too.
it's all good.
yeah, it's one of those things, right?
Yeah.
So first thing is like the stress around ads, hiring, etc. is usually from a process that is underutilizing good SOPs and good data. It's one of those two things, right? SOPs mean standard operating procedures and data to back what's working and what's not. So the stress behind that from, let's say, hiring someone and then realizing you have to onboard them, train and manage them is usually because every single process in that business hasn't been properly SOP'd out. Whether that's using something like Scribe, which is a great tool, which I think everyone should use, literally click by click SOPs, everything, 100% get it, or something, or even like as simple as Loom, right? Which then like you can just put into Claude and then get it properly fully SOP'd out. Now, something like that is just basic processes that like you kind of need before we go into, let's say, hiring someone to take on clients or hiring a DM setter if you're doing DM setting, right? Or hiring someone to even honestly, like even edit your videos. Like it's just those things where it's like where if you can have things done properly, then you have less stress because you don't need to micromanage them. And you don't need to. So, all right, I'll give you an example with Jeremy Haynes. I don't know if you it's Jeremy Haynes, someone in the space. He gives he mentioned he mentioned someone else who was doing 10 million a year. That was 10 million months, right? That was describing different types of people in the business as stallions, camels, and donkeys, right? So donkeys are essentially going to be the people where you essentially get them to do some work and then they get tired and then they fall over after a few steps and then you have to beat them to get going again and then they get you forward and they do the work for a bit, but you have to keep telling them what to do essentially. So they're just people you don't want in the business at all. They shouldn't be hired in the first place, and they shouldn't have even been on an interview, right? Now, the next type of people is camels. So they're usually super reliable. They can go long distances. They can go the mile. They're not exactly exceptional or anything like that. They're still camels, but they just need direction on where to go. So they're the reliable team members that you can have a good base of camels in your business, right? And then you have the stallions who are just going to go whatever way they want as fast as possible, but they're very, very good. They're very fast. They get stuff done. They do stuff right, and they go all the way basically. But they don't do it as well with direction. So that needs to be managed a lot better. So in your business, you only really want stallions and camels, right? The problem is the stress compounds for most businesses because they keep hiring donkeys because they don't know how to actually go about the hiring process as well. And it's just how I've consistently seen it so far. It's responsibility over the hire. So we have a very, very strong saying in our business, never assume a filled seat equals a job being done. So if anyone just expects someone to hire them and then all your time is back, like everything's being done perfectly. And then if something goes wrong, it's their fault. They're a reactive business owner is what we call them. So a reactive business owner only realizes something's wrong when the problem comes up. Now, if you're only realizing something that's gone wrong when a problem comes up, that means something was wrong before that. And it should have been spotted before that. It was your responsibility to train them properly, to manage them properly, to make sure it wasn't going wrong. Something didn't go wrong. So, of course, this applies for every single role. And I think we're more speaking about key man risk on coaches, but I honestly think this applies for every single role. Because once you can have once you can have a system where, let's say, it's organic plus ads, right? So it's still outbound into organic site inbound slash inbound plus organic outbound, sorry, into organic, and then ads coming in as well. And that can be outbound into, let's say, new followers from ads or DM ad inbounds. And then you have assessors who can book them into calls with proper conversation flow. They have KPIs, they're managed. That's pretty much running on its own. And then they can eventually, if you want to pull yourself out of sales at a certain point, they can go into closes and they can come in properly with either yourself, who's giving them a very, very good service on the inside, or yourself plus supporting coaches, or it's if you really don't want to do anything in the business, then it's coaches who are better than you ideally. I don't think that you can get away with not being in the business without coaches who are better than you, in my opinion. So I do think that is like delivery just cannot get compromised on at all. So in any CSMs, any client success managers, or any coaches at all, if you're pulling yourself out completely and you have no involvement in the back end, I truly believe that coaches have to be better than you, because you have to basically, like, one of the bigger things in terms of actions being taken is conviction in the thing that you're saying, right? You already have an automatic level of conviction as like brand face, as an owner, because of the content, because of the front end, because of the processes. So the coaches on the back end have to compensate that with skill, information, the response time, how quickly they can make sure you get a solution to your problem, the amount of one-to-one support calls as well. We believe one-to-one calls, messaging access as well, all of this to make sure problems are answered very quickly and then solutions are managed for that individual business, for personalization of the support. Because for a business to scale, there's going to be multiple different bottlenecks, and for someone to consistently grow as well, those bottlenecks have to be identified and solved, and we have to be under the assumption that the coach, the business owner, doesn't have the information to find that bottleneck themselves every single time, because that's what they'd come to us for, to get an answer on, right? So I did go off track there. So one of the easiest ways and one of the biggest ways that you can reduce stress in that way as well is to have data around all these processes, of course, which we mentioned. We spoke about, Mike mentioned as well. And then, of course, Mike mentioned as well with key man risk. Now, I'm saying this more importantly because, like, I think stress is like a really, really, really big factor. And it's a huge one, where, especially when we're working with fitness coaches who are rewarded from more effort that they put in, basically, throughout their whole lives, right? Pretty much everyone's built their entire, like, they built their physiques, built their business as well from effort at the beginning. And then when you get rewarded from effort, you believe the next step is to put in more effort. When in business, like, the next step is usually building more leverage as well as effort, of course. So when you're building leverage, you have freedom to make choices as well. So freedom to make different moves in the business because you have your head above the water, which is what I'd say. Because a lot of the people that come to us, they usually have families, right? They usually have kids. They are looking to build predictability and retire. And they usually, or if they're on their way up as well, they're usually looking to get married and have kids and all of this sooner rather than later. So that need for reduced stress, free time, freedom, as well as, of course, getting a good result, which I do believe leads to less stress in the business as well, is what I do think that everyone should be optimizing for anyways, which I think Mike and I as well agree on there.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. Data. You're both data guys. I see it in your ads all the time, Azri, about your clients saying to you, you're a whiz with data, and it's a big important part of what you do. What data are we looking at specifically? And Mike, I'll ask you the same question as well. What data do we track? Well, Azri, do you want to go first? What data? Just let's dive into data. What's important? What's not important?
All right, so data in different departments, right? But if we're talking about, let's say, an outbound DM system to begin with, let's say someone has 10,000 followers, right? They come to us with 10,000 followers, right? Initially, we want to make sure DM setting system works, right? So DM setting system working, how I see that as well, is either them or setter. Initially, them to validate tonality, language, brand voice, all of this, right? But with proper processes, proper DM systems, what we've consistently seen back to back to back is, let's say, out of 200 outbound DMs sent per day, which is usually a set around that point when it gets to 200, right? Which is 6,000 in a month. Now, from the 6,000 sent in a month, you typically get a 33% response rate with first message outbound response being outbound messages being done properly. From those 2,000 responses, which should be tracked, the 33% response rate, which you can split test first messages for, you should have about, from those 2,000 responses, about 6% of them go into call offers made, which is also the qualification process in there. So it's about 120 call offers made, which is the 6% response to call offer. From those 120 call offers, we typically see 65% call offer to call booking. So 78 calls booked. Now, we typically don't even send calendar links. Manual time sent is usually the thing that actually gets the highest conversion there as well. So from those 68, 78 calls booked, like we typically see for good organic accounts, it's like 80, 85% plus show rate. But let's say cold traffic here, like we're looking for about a 70% show rate. So that from the 78 there, it's about 54 calls taken. And then from the 54 calls taken, you usually see like minimum of a 65% close rate on a higher AOV product. So it's like a 35 calls closed on a 65%. Now, on average, like minimum AOV that we've seen across clients once nurture assets are fixed, sales process fixed, offers are fixed, is usually around that 700 to 900 pound mark. So that's the amount of cash collected on the first call. So this is typically on a 1.2 to 1.8K 6 month offer. And of course, we have guys that have 3K offers, 5K offers, 10, 20K offers as well, actually. So I'm just going off of like, let's say, go off of the average here. So 700 to 900, that AOV average cash collected is between people that pay monthly, 2 pays, 3 pays, paid in fulls, of course. And look, it's not like a one and done thing where you have to sell them again and again and again. So with this, you're usually selling them on a recurrent on the back end anyway. So LTV is typically very high here. Retention is still very high. Now that means that from let's say 900 collected on 35 calls closed, that's what leads to 31.5K new cash, right? And that's just from the outbound DM send system being done properly. Now, obvious question is going to be, where do you find the 200 outbound DMs a day to send every single month, basically, right? Which is where ads come in. So typically with ads, like top of for the first $3,000 a month spend. So typically we can validate it like $1,000 basically in the first month, right? And then the obvious number is to scale it. So ads top of funnel, usually profile visit to follow ads to begin with. So these are essentially just so you know, for these to work properly as well, for niche specific qualified followers, which aren't just top of funnel garbage, they have to be scripted properly. The timings on words have to be done properly. The setup has to be done properly. Audience targeting, of course, has to be done properly. And the split testing has to be done properly. So this is kind of what we lay out ABC with clients as well. Ads top of funnel. Let's say within a month we put like 1.5 grand into ads. So it's like £50 a day, right? Doesn't have to start there. I'm just saying as a number, right? From the 1.5K, that typically like we're looking to get like a 70p to £1.10 cost per follower, right? So let's say let's just say like we get 2,000 new followers from that. Those 2,000 new followers essentially go into the top of funnel on that DM setting system. So I've said that, okay, if we send 200 messages a day, I guess it's 6,000. So 2,000 new followers from that is a third of the new cash collected, which then, like, if you go on the new cash numbers of 30 grand, it's 10 grand, basically. Now, 1.5K going into 10 grand isn't usually what happens on the first run. So it's usually like a 5 to 6x ROAS on the first 1.5 grand. But of course, that can be optimized for higher. So that means that 1.5 grand usually goes into what's it called? It's about 7 grand, right? Now, from that, we have a validated system. The validated system essentially allows us to scale the 1.5 to 3 to 5 and so on, right? And then that's sitting on a 5 grand, 5 extra hours is the predictable system, right? So if you put 5 grand in and get 25 grand new cash out, plus of course you have some of these that are recurring as well. So it's not all just paid in fulls or just collect all the money up front. The LTVs on these are still solid, and some of these are still very much going into recurring. Then at that point, when we're like, okay, we have a solid validated system there, then we're like, let's layer on retargeting. So let's layer on retargeting nurture testimonials. This should be kind of done in between anyways. And then from there, we can go straight into retargeting via sell call funnel, so direct to booking. And then that is purely just a numbers game on the creative, right? And then from there, you can go to cold via sell call funnel. So it doesn't have to be via sell call funnel. It can be lead formats, can be webinars as well. A pixeled event is what we want because after what we've just seen after 5, 6, 7 grand in profile visit, follow ad spend attribution is just very, very difficult at that point because that's when even with solid DM set and tracking systems, very, very difficult. So that's when we go into scaling further and further. So look, most of our clients very have less, usually about less than 15% of their margins, even 20% of their total margins on ad spend. Everything else is making sure the system works and getting the team in place to make sure that everything is running properly. Like most of them are, let's say, that are making around like 50 grand a month. Most usually spending about 3, 4 grand a month in ads, right? So it's really not heavy in terms of spend. Now the guys at 100K a month, of course, like the returns lower as they go higher and higher in ad spend, but they're usually about like 10 to 15 grand a month in ad spend. Sometimes we have some guys at 20, right? But they're very aggressively trying to scale to 150. So there's like a validated process. But the guys that starting at the 10, 20 grand a month mark, like we don't really put aside more than like a grand into validating ads in the first month or so. And then after the numbers make sense, it's purely a game of like, can we put more on the front end to get more out, to get to 40 grand a month, 50, 60, 70, 100 grand plus, basically. So that's usually what it kind of looks like. Of course, it's different for different situations. Every single business we work with is usually in a different position. But in terms of numbers, it's usually those numbers: cost per call book, cost per call taken, qualified call taken, acquisition, etc. And it would be ROAS.
Awesome. You can tell straight away that that is your thing. Like how all that just rolled off your tongue there, mate, was impressive. Like very, very good. Like yeah, really impressive, mate.
That's the
Uh,
same numbers I look at every single day with clients. So
you can tell you know your stuff with that. Mike, you were making a fair few notes there by the looks of it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll pick up on just a couple of bits just for my own interest. I'm sure that Azri can kind of mention can answer a lot of these things just for my own kind of thoughts. So I guess I'll start chronologically. So he mentions an account with say 10,000 followers, let's just say that comes in and 6,000 outbound messages at 200 a day for the month, right? So that's going to be just under 2 months that all of those Instagram followers will have had a message, right? So after that month and a half to 2 months where all of those Instagram followers would have had a message, he then obviously went on to talk about bringing in some follower ads, right? Some followers from some ads, right? In our personal experience, your better quality of clients have followed you for at least north of say 3 months, right? Now, obviously, once this conveyor belt starts going, right, it's not like you're just going to switch on the ads once you've exhausted kind of your current followership. And like, of course, that's the case, right? And once you've got over that, say, 3 month hump anyway, let's just say that then by definition, everybody's followed you for at least 3 months, right? We usually say that at least 3 months plus, right? Are people going to take action quicker than that from an ad? Yeah, of course, right? In our experience, they tend to be less qualified and they tend to be less bought in terms of values, etc., and kind of knowing what to sign up for. In our experience, that could be different elsewhere, right? So my concern and what I've seen, again, granted, nobody from Azri, but what I've seen is this approach, very, very similar to this approach, right? And it could be it could be discrepancies in type of follower that's coming in from the type of ads that Azri helps with, or types of messages, etc. But what I've seen is this: is that you've messaged all of you say 10,000, right? You then feel a little bit sleazy, and there's that barrier where people have not. You've closed your calls, okay, great, beautiful. I don't discount that you can message all your 10,000 followers and you can get some calls booked, no problem, right? Once that's kind of done, there's that little barrier psychologically from a coach, right, to then continue to reach out again, other mentor style with message, right? And then also, I believe what I've seen is that sometimes from the client's perspective or the follower's perspective, right, once they've ignored a message, they're more reluctant to then reach out themselves, right? When you feel like you've ghosted someone, psychologically, there might be a little bit of friction there in terms of reaching out, as opposed to having a general flow of a conversation where it's been a back and forth, right? So that's kind of what we've seen. People have then been told to run follower ads in, right? So then let's just say you're getting in another 5,000 followers and then you're messaging those, or six, let's just make it the maths easy and go, right, you get another 6,000 followers that month, hopefully. Well, and you message all of those that month, right? And you make all of those sales again, which on average is collecting 35,000 or 31,000 or 33 or whatever it was, right? Great. Again, well, you've got to do the same again the next month then. For the ads, right? I've definitely seen accounts that have run heavy on ads and got in large amounts of volume of followers. And also the same can be said from viral style content. So not just ads. I've seen people run viral content where they're getting heavy amounts of followers, right? That ultimately ends up killing their engagement because they've not organically grown that followership. Because what I've tended to see is people have blown up, gone viral, or spent heavy on ads and ended up with multiple tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of followers. You then look at their reach. Their reach is down, their stories are down, their inbounds are down. Um, and that's where I mean where I've seen accounts killed by this stuff, right? Over the long term, right? I don't discount that it can work in the short term because if you're then reliant on follower ads for to bring in new eyes to the page consistently, when does that end as such? I'd say. Um, so yeah, I've definitely seen 100%. I can hand on heart say I've definitely seen accounts where they've got large followers and their accounts are really dry, really barren. I've had to start new accounts with multiple people because they've used these techniques. This is what I mean by like it can hurt a business. And again, I'm not speaking for Azri because I've got no place to talk about that because I've got no experience with any of his clients or ex-clients or anything like that. But if we're talking about these topics, the 700 to 900 average cash collected on the call is great, right? That's what the average that Azri spoke about. It's not quite the 10 grand, the 20 grand numbers that are kind of out there in terms of like these offers, and they sound great. When it boils down to it, the average is still 7 to 900, which again is great, but again, respectfully, it's not a huge amount, and obviously you're going to optimize those things, and then you've spoken about skill levels on calls, etc., and probably that number is liable to grow over time per coach, right? I understand that. Is that on average somebody might come in, it might be a little bit less than that. The high number obviously brings that average up, and then hopefully you get your clients moving past that average. Makes sense, right? But 7 to 900 is kind of normal, I would suggest. So, I mean, I'm guessing here that could be for 3, 4 months of coaching, just at that price point potentially. I wouldn't expect it to be 6 months of coaching or 12 months of coaching. So I'm gonna have a guess, a stab at 3 to 4 months. What I've seen, again, nobody from Azri, but what I've seen is that coaches in general have a harder time retaining those people after that 3 to 4 month mark, right? Once they've come in from speed of acquisition, right? Because they're not quite, on average, as bought in as somebody who has followed you for a longer period of time, etc. Right? So what I've seen is that there does tend to be a drop off after the initial program is done. Whereas I try to hedge my bets and make it really, 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 really unlikely that somebody is going to leave after 3 to 4 months, right? In fact, it's one of the first things that I look for when we talk about data, because people that come into me have done these things. And that's what I mean when I said right at the very beginning that on average, when we talked about product and being the best coach in class takes a year, I usually see people with retention rates of about 3 to 4 months. And it usually, not always, is because they've sold a program, that program's maybe not delivered, the product's not up to standard, etc., or maybe they've not been able to build a rapport with the client over that 3 or 4 months, or they weren't a great fit to begin with, right? So they will have a portion. I'm sure we can agree of per 30 clients that come through the door, a portion of those 30 clients aren't going to renew at their renewal date 3 or 4 months down the line. I believe that portion is higher than I would have in terms of clients that drop clients at the 3 to 4 month mark. I would be expecting definitely no more than 10% of clients to leave after 4 months. Definitely no. It should be almost a freak occurrence, right? That would happen. I would hazard a guess without having run this model myself, but just going off what I've seen, that percentage of transitions onto the recurring, I would suggest that that's probably higher in terms of drop-offs, which then places more stress on the lead generation, right? Because for us, obviously, if you're retaining for a little bit longer, your lead generation is not as stressful. So then you don't need to then go heavy on the ads or heavy on the messages. So I feel like there's some things there that I potentially see have seen issues with. Again, not with Azri's clients. Um, I think certainly what as we talked about in terms of I think you mentioned 10. Did you just before I kind of talking this point, did you say 10 to 20%, no more than 10 to 20% of revenue is spent on ads? Is that right, Azri?
Typically, yeah, or in an aggressive growth phase, up to
Okay,
30%.
10 to
Yeah.
20. Okay,
Yeah.
10 to 20. So I think you mentioned at 50K, you said typically it'd be 3K. So that's
Mm.
that
Typically,
that
four,
would be six.
yeah, typically about 4 to 5K at 50K, if I misspoke there.
Oh,
Typically about 4 to 5K, yeah.
okay,
Uh,
so eight
so,
to ten, so 8 to 10% as opposed to 10 to 20%. So that's much lower.
so,
I was just going to
so
pick up on if it's 10
yeah.
to 20% of revenue, and then you've obviously then got expenses on high amounts of staff. I imagine that to be quite stressful for the coach at starting from zero or nearly zero, let's just say, because you're going to still have some recurring on the back end, right? I'd imagine that that's quite stressful for a coach. And again, depends on the psychology, depends on the mindset, depends on the type of person it is, of course. But from what I've experienced, is that what I've heard is it's really difficult starting from zero because then you've got to then go and you've got 5, 10, 15K of expenses to go and at least cover with making payment, with collecting payments. And that's not always been the case that they've been able to do that. And they've got themselves in a bit of trouble. This is what I mean by it kind of ruining businesses. I've seen people have to leave the industry, coaches. I've seen only recently, there was a poster girl from a different mentorship, not Azri's, that was celebrated as doing great. She's had to leave the industry because she'd been told to run this model, right? When previously on her own, she'd grown a really healthy business, and she'd only been the poster girl because, in my opinion, the groundwork that she'd laid before said mentorship had kind of given her the platform to be able to be that said poster girl. Business model changes, and she's now considering not being a coach anymore. So again, I'm speaking on from the things that I've seen and the queries or the worries that I've heard from the client that comes to me, not the client that goes to Azri, the client that comes to me, and it is always I hated starting from zero. I hated so much stress. There was up and down months with my ads. Some of them weren't converting. I then had all of these expenses, which was causing me more stress. So all I've got to speak on that experience are those things and so on and so forth. But again, I have to caveat it and go, obviously, Dr. Azri can deliver on what he's saying. Um, but those are my experiences with those types of business models that have been run, admittedly, by other mentors in the space.
Could you maybe fill the gaps then, Asri, in regards to why that may be the case? What are these mentors that are having that effect on coaches' businesses doing or not doing?
Very good question. So, like, first things first, I have also seen the same thing. It frustrates me more than anything else. It's like, honestly, just dreadful businesses built
Do you
off of
get
the
tar do you sometimes get tarred with that brush, if you don't mind me kind of interjecting?
100%, which is why it's actually a lot more painful than you think um working with the system done the right way when everyone has mental PTSD, basically, is
If I
what we
can
call
jump
it.
in, mate, this is probably why you're here and why they're not here. That speaks
Okay.
volumes. you know, straight away.
I would have loved that. I would have loved to have a conversation with one of these people. I would rip it apart. And so, okay, so I can tell you what's going on there because this is like I've seen like hundreds of these now, right? So first things first, there is a reason why those types of businesses usually have like if we start from the top here, there's a reason why those types of businesses either have bad engagement or after running certain ads, they have a bad quality of client, they have bad retention on these new clients coming. There is a very, very, very good reason behind this. So first things first, the actual ads that they are running, they're almost always like the standard boost your best post. Let's hope and get a one under £1 cost per follow, right? This is the first thing I've been told that everyone is apparently hearing. So it's like it's you're basically running the viral shit that they basically did numbers in India, and then you're like you're getting people who aren't actually there because they are niche qualified, specific, want to know you and about your thing, and are bought into you. So if they're bringing in people who aren't actually bought into them and they're just there for the free tips or some exercise tips or their top six in meals or side by side pointing at some food, like realistically, who are we talking to? It's like, are these people actually bought into your brand, your authority, your product, right? Absolutely not. We don't actually want those people coming in either because it's just work for the setters who it's just inefficient, right? So they just have to outbound a bunch of people who aren't going to be clients ever. Now, so the type of ad is super, super important. The second thing is the amount of buy-in they need in terms of time for someone to become a good client who retains is, in my opinion, as well, purely based off of the amount of contact time they have with you, right? The amount of your stuff they've seen, because we're assuming the difference between time is the number of touch points they've had with your contacts and with your values, your personality, your authority, the information that you can put out there, and your product, right? So that bias cycle, yes, without ads done being properly, which is what I've seen many, 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 many times as well, is either lengthened or they're just trying to go into a sales process way too early when they shouldn't do, right? So that being done wrong and then just salesy, pitchy DMs is honestly it's not something I stand for either. I think it just makes you, in general, look like you're desperate. So it's like I don't think that works in general. So that being either compressed into a shorter time frame with, of course, organic being done properly as well, with content being done properly, story sequences being done properly, where you are bringing them from top of funnel to middle of funnel to bottom of funnel, and then with retargeting ads as well, that time period can be compressed very easily, right? I take that back. Not very easily. It can be done, but if it's done properly, which isn't always easy, of course. Now, it's always going to honestly the whole like sleazy outbound DM thing. I agree with 100% because of what's being taught. Like what's being taught out there isn't actually value driven inside any DMs, and it's not conversational. It's not how you would talk to a mate. So it's like it always seems like an interview or a sales pitch where it's like, so are you trying to lose fat or build muscle? What are you mainly struggling with losing fat? It's like, yeah, we've seen it 1,000 times. We know exactly what that looks like, right? It's a sales conversation. Everyone knows it's a sales conversation. The market's mature enough. The leads know it's a sales conversation, right? So how that's done properly is super, super important. And then how people can be trained up to do that properly is super, super important. Hiring right assessors and managing them so that is done properly is super important. Including follow up done badly as well. So like follow up, that I also think you can like destroy your brand by doing it improperly as well. Done properly in the right cadence without spamming, without all of this is super, super important. So value driven follow up, actual voice notes personalized based on any value that you can add is usually something that's taken on very well by the prospect. Usually because it's either they've gotten it lost in the inbox, they had something come up, which is very normal, and they're not all living in the inbox in IG, and they actually did want the conversation typically, and then you're one step further forward to being able to help them with the thing they actually wanted help with, which is why they're in the conversation and still in that conversation at that point, right? And then look, the whole idea as well of what's it called, the retention, right? So the retention, so I can clear up some numbers there as well. So retention, I'm assuming as well, is also based on the LTV wanting to be higher, the average LTV across the clients wanting to be higher. because we're assuming that no one's really always stays with you forever once they've gotten the result and transformation, and they're usually there for community and accountability at that point, right? So the inevitably that's like the downsell, right? The community and accountability. So if retention, let's say front end retention we're talking about is mainly to do with LTV, then that's where I'm like, okay, typically LTV of these clients that come in are very good. So the 700, 900 thing, I was talking more as the average order value. So that's like, of course, I so all the way up at 3 grand for some people. Average order value, we're talking about, it's typically like a 1.8, 2.4, 3K 6 month program, right? Where some of that is paid in full. Some of those guys are recurring monthly. Some of those split it in two. Some of those have financing options and pay a certain amount or pay in full. Some of them's deposit for close and then the split pays there. All of that typically averages out to the first call, first month, collecting about 700 to 900 for roughly a 1.8. And then it's usually about 1.2 AOV for like a 2.4 to 3K offer, right? So that whole idea of LTV and then them staying on as well, they usually typically stay on for those 6 month programs about 10 months, right? So it usually adds up to about like a 3K LTV around there, 3 to 3.6K LTV for a 1.2, 1.8 offer, and then you up at the 4 to 5s in the higher ticket offers. Just can be called mid ticket for some of the guys with 10, 20K offers, but different conversation, right? Now that is usually where we're like, okay, is the actual average LTV good? And did they, of course, deliver on getting results? Was the thing that they were selling to be delivered in that time frame? Because some of these people that we're working with, like hormone offers, health offers as well, peptides in their offering, all of these very high ticket, a lot of blood work. They are there for very specific deliverables and very specific results, right? The community and accountability is a downsell, which of course like increases LTV and all of this and retention. We don't really count that into the for the front end numbers that we actually need for marketing, basically. Now, the reason why we go for a higher AOV and a higher LTV as well upfront, higher AOV at the upfront and then higher ticket packages as well is because it fuels the spend for scaling the business. So when we're talking about compression of growth phases as well, so that is usually what scales the next level of ad spend because usually if you're around the same range of spend, you're going to stay around the same range of outbound volume and then top of funnel lead volume, which are qualified, right? So that is usually why we have the processes set up to be able to fuel the spend to the next level and the next level and the next level in a very short period of time. Because it's more like if you're the amount of time it takes to, let's say, build up a base on a lower ticket, we've typically seen collect less cash over a longer period of time, let's say across a year. In my opinion, I'm not exactly sure exactly what Mike does or anything like that, so I can't speak on any of that just yet. From the people that come to us, we've just typically seen they've stagnated for a year or two when the opportunity cost of them being at the next range of spend and the next range of volume of leads, next range of client level of clients, next range of new cash collected per month. The opportunity cost is where the biggest gap in business growth is, and of course the amount they take home is. So it's just moving past those levels because staying in a 10, 20, 30K range is costing them the amount in the difference of being in 50, 60, 70K range within that same year, for example, right? So it's the difference there that the opportunity cost usually is with cash collected, which is why we want to fuel the growth very quickly.
Interesting, very interesting. We've got 15 minutes left, and I'd like to jump on. I know you're making some notes there, Mike. Feel free to squeeze them in if you can to this question or topic, which is around actually pricing that coaches charge. So I've heard everything from £150 a month to some of the figures you've mentioned today, Azri. Mike, what's your thoughts on kind of pricing and what coaches should be charging? Again, I know a broad question there, and it'll depend on the coach, the quality, the niche, so on and so forth. But generally speaking, where would you start with pricing?
Yeah, yeah, it does depend, obviously. Like if you've got a real premium product, like as we talked about in terms of delving into blood work, etc. Yeah, it's gonna cost more, right? Of course, it's gonna cost more. As a general average across the industry, from what I've seen, it's somewhere between 150 £250 a month, right? Retaining them for X amount of time. That's what we work on. I believe that price, excuse me, should increase with demand, obviously, um, and product. There is a sweet spot I've seen, so that's one of the things that we'll track. I didn't go into exclusively all the things that we track, but we would track a sweet spot. So, for example, let's just say if somebody's charging, say £300, but they're let's just say that they're retaining people for say 4 months, right? But actually at say 250, £275, that they're retaining people a little bit longer, and the lifetime value is better. I personally would opt for that one, like personally, just because of the level of result that you're going to be able to deliver and the increased likelihood of a referral as well if somebody's spending longer time in your community, potentially. Um, I don't know where the industry got to a point where they didn't see 200, 250 quid for somebody to be, a decent chunk. It's especially in terms of economy wise, again, depending on who you're targeting. If you're targeting fucking high flyers, as everybody does, by the way, busy professionals, like garbage. Like if you're targeting people that want a more premium bespoke product where they're getting, let's just say, meals fucking delivered for them, private fucking chefs, mindset coaching, blood work done. It's not going to be fucking £200 a month, is it? But for what we generally see in the industry, which is a lot of very, very similar products or similar coaching, I've seen anywhere between 150, say 250. I want to bring up one anecdote of one of my coaches that had a conversation with the other day because he's got a friend who's in, I don't know what mentorship it is, to be fair, but it runs a similar model of like what Dr. Azri is talking about, right? And he was saying he's bringing home 50k a month, and out of that 50k a month, he's seeing 25. My client is bringing home 40 a month, um, and and out of that bringing 35, right? And he just had and look, that is one example. As we said earlier, we could sit here and talk numbers all day, right? Because of course we're going to have our own experience with our own hundreds of clients that we've worked with, right? Of course that's the case. But what he said to me is, I'd much rather have this approach where I've just got a little bit more predictability. I'm keeping more of what I earn. And one of those models was on a high package, so the 50k, right? And he's liable to fluctuations, more fluctuations, if the system is repeatable, as Azri says, as repeatable as clearly he's kind of speaking about. If you're able to generate 50 next month, put more into ads, 55, and again, as he mentions, as growth occurs, you need to continue to level up kind of like the ad spend, right? That's okay, and you probably will end up doing big numbers, right? Certainly for my clients, like taking home 35 grand out of the 40 is decent. So I'm not going to sit here and say like coaches must charge this amount because there's so many nuances to it. I would say as an industry average, out of the tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of coaches, that there are, um, I would say as a general average, people will probably be in and around the 150 to say 250 mark until their product, their experience gets to a level, or maybe the niche is slightly different where they're able to offer a different thing to just the general nutrition training advice, etc. And that's not to rubbish that, by the way, because you can still make a really, really good living. I mean, you only need 50 clients paying you £200 a month to be making 10 grand. That's not a big stretch in my opinion. If you can't find 50 people on the internet to work with you, you've got bigger problems. So I don't think that there's a big stretch there. And then you've got a very, very good base, in my opinion, right? And at that point, you can increase prices, you can bring on staff. That's how we would go about scaling the business. So, in a nutshell, right, is that I would be probably looking for a coach to be bringing in about 20k themselves, and then bringing on a coach to be able to then generate revenue for the business and obviously profit out of that, right? But in terms of asking me what a number is, this is a very long-winded way of saying there is no specific number. So sorry.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. Azri, obviously you've thrown out some different types of numbers, and again, you mentioned more specifics. But like when I first, just from my experience anyway, I think started off £150 a month or whatever in a previous mentorship. I then got told just to overnight increase it to 997. for 3 months because that's what I was worth. And I was just like, how can people do this? Like, it was just so mind blowing. Like, £1,000 was so much money. It was unbelievable to me at that point. And it just kind of just went on and on and on. And you mentioned there about like, was it like 3K offers, 5K offers, and I wouldn't even like to think what the client gets for that amount of price up front or cost, should I say? So yeah, can you talk a little bit about pricing and what you've seen, what your experience is, and what your thoughts are on all that?
All right, got you. So first things first, yes, the industry average is at like 150, 250 a month, right? Yes, 100%. Most of our clients aren't really industry average coaches, in my opinion. And that's not saying that the coaches that are charging 150, 250 a month are industry like average or anything like that. Absolutely not. I think it's okay, so this has nothing to do with what Mike's clients do or anything like that, but I do think there's a difference in sales and marketing skill that also determines price, right? So that is one of the levers that can increase price. Second, of course, actually should be the first. The top priority is the actual product, the service. Of course, that's going to be one of the biggest things. And then the third thing is lead volume, because it's unlikely that someone's going to pitch a high ticket product when they have like 3 leads coming in a day. You're actually just trying to breathe at that point, right? So after a week, sorry, 3 leads coming in like a week or a month, right? At that point, it's just like you sell what you can sell based on your sales and marketing skill, right? Which is why at the beginning, we I think we all started at like 150, £250 a month with fitness, right? Pretty much everyone did because of the level of skill and marketing at that point, right? And it's not a matter of just say a higher number on a call. Absolutely not. I disagree with this as well. I've seen businesses absolutely wreck their entire models by just saying, okay, let's just say a higher number, right? And it's actually based on quite a few things which are interesting. Now, first things first, right? If we're talking about increases in price, we're actually first talking about what it looks like in a package to begin with, right? Because if we take £250 a month on in a 6 month package, that's £1,500, right? Now, the difference between which was why is kept referring back to average order value, average cash collected. The difference between someone paying £1,500 and the difference between someone paying £250 a month for the exact same thing on the first call is usually down to the lead quality. So can we generate qualified leads in your niche, how niche specific they are? So when I say lead quality, their financial capability to invest. Can they can the person actually go through a sales process properly? Do they have enough sales skill? And then is the marketing nurture process inside the DMs with proper sales assets sent, with proper video sales sent, with proper resources sent so they're warmed up ahead of the call and are ready to buy? Is that all done properly before you actually start pitching something like that, right? Because until then you it's just saying a high enough, right? It's just we're hoping someone says yes, right? Now, having a higher ticket package on a call does not mean you can't sell monthly there. That just means the monthly is the drop down if it isn't feasible after finding out what the actual problem is. Now, the reason we also go for a higher ticket package is it's guaranteed income. So you don't have a question of like whether they drop off at 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. It's just a matter of can you do the job so they stay on for another 6 months or they stay on monthly on a back end recurring, right? Can we actually get the result and build a good product, of course, which is why we kept going back to that as well, so they can stick on, right? So then that's why the LTV and the average retention, of course, is higher now. The main thing there is actually making sure that when we do have clients that we know or we understand, when we do have clients that are coming in that are paying more, they are typically a lot more invested into getting the result. So we all know situations of these, right? The people who are lower ticket, who are, let's say, basically on the verge of saying no, and then they say yes, and this, they're usually trial hunters, let's say, usually, right? And of course, that is at the beginning more of them than not. The people who are able to pay higher and that quality of client that is paying higher they're usually a lot more invested. They're a lot more invested to getting the result, which means they're a lot more invested into staying longer, which means they're also a lot more invested in transformation and the result with proper, of course, service delivery and all of this. And then they are also a lot more likely to refer more clients as well, because they also have friends who can also pay that amount. So it becomes a very easily compounding uh, quality of client that you're working with. And the biggest thing which I hear all day, every day, is my leads are too broke to pay, like painful. So it's almost always like, so I have to resort to monthly. Now, maybe the sales process isn't good. Maybe the nurture process isn't good enough. Maybe the sales process isn't good enough. Maybe it's the lead, right? If it's all the way back at the lead quality side of things, then it's like, how do we get more qualified leads would be the only question, right? Which is then when we're like, which is why usually like all advertising, we can buy those leads technically. So we're like, if we can put £1 in here and then make sure we get a lead that can pay this much out, basically, it's a systemized process for that whole system itself as a whole to work, basically, to put more in and get more out. Now, outside of that, like how we actually go about price increases, let's say if someone came to us and they were already selling at like 150, 250, first of all, we just so you know, we do have clients come to us who are doing numbers at the monthly mark, who are heavy recurring businesses. A lot of them come to us at that. First of all, we're not in the game of making sure that we 100% flip things on its head to force it to work around our model. I think that's it's the whole template mental advice, right? It's just like everything has to work around our model. There's no biases. Like I don't care if I'm right, I care, right? So we actually work with exactly what's working there and see if there are gaps to be optimized, first of all, if there's spaces to be leveraged, and then what the highest leverage move for that point of time is. If it's actually more volume, and that's what they actually need to make sure that they scale, then we focus on that. If it's like a better offer, if it's a packaged offer, if it's a higher AOV, then we'll focus on that, right? So it's not always a move of like you have to start selling high ticket straight away. Now, usually when it does make sense to start selling packages as well, then we're looking at like, okay, what does logically make sense? So if they were selling 250 a month, we'd probably start with 750 3 months, where comfortably we're assuming sales skill isn't set up to sell high ticket, yeah. Comfortably, they can still drop down to 250 a month. And then we probably push that to 997 for 4 months. Then we probably push that to 1500 for 6 months, right? Where it's for they have more incentive for the 6 months, right? Where let's say it's higher for 3 months. So then we're essentially building a package where then based on the deliverables increasing as well, product increasing, lead volume increasing, and then of course capacity as well decreasing. Then we're like, can we taper up the offer? Do we need better margins here? Then can we make sure that we maintain the close rate, we maintain the and increase the AOV while we scale? So all of those numbers are very the actual like how much should you charge number is very, very contextual, based on the business, based on the founder, based on who's doing the sales, what the marketing looks like. It's never like a set number. It's just that you kind of usually need a set number to start when you're starting ground zero, which is in that industry average, usually from what we've done. Very rarely are like, okay, okay, you're starting from zero, start selling at £2,000 for 6 months. So it's just not really how it works, right? But yeah, that's my overall opinion on it.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, mate. I know you need to go. So, one final question for you both. We are at the end. Mike, if a coach watching could remember one bit of advice, a statement, a claim, or comment from this episode, what would it be?
I think I would personally just make sure that you do your due diligence in terms of who you work with. If the purpose of this podcast is to um, speak about different methods in a controlled kind of conversation, I feel like coaches are very, very quick to hand over the reins of their business, which is their whole livelihood and their whole life. I think they're very quick to hand it over and make a knee-jerk decision. Make sure you're doing your due diligence with the systems, the processes, the values, and build the business that you want. There's no right or wrong. I think both me and Azri have presented cases that we're both successful with our own clients. We've both got comparable businesses in terms of our own businesses. I don't sell packages, for example. Like again, just to kind of touch on the previous, but I still sell recurring as it goes. We both quite similar in lots of ways, but I'd say coaches just do your due diligence and build the business that you want. Don't and by the way, just to touch on the point, I'm really pleased to hear that Asri doesn't just plug people into the same
Yeah.
fucking template everybody does. Right, that's great.
Yeah.
Because also I've had people that do charge packages and I've not told them to. Just FYI, I've not told them to change that. By the way, they've continued to sell packages. So yeah, do your due diligence, find out who you connect with, what business that you want to build, not just what somebody is promising you that you can build, because certainly with a lot of different mentors out there, um, they're selling to you in their content. They want your money, so they're going to tell you good things, right? I I don't need respectfully anybody's money, because I'm done. So I've got no reason to lie. Just be wary of the industry out there. Make a more considered purchase, and yeah, whatever you decide to do, make sure you buy into it 100%. Give it your best shot. And there's multiple ways to skin a cat. I'm not right. I don't think Azri's right. It's right for the right person. So make sure it's right for you, basically.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. Azri, what about yourself?
Couldn't agree more. I do think like modern due diligence is very, very important. It's very easy to get sold in the space we're in now. And like I know for a fact, I mean, a very, very easy gauge from what we've seen as well, what I've just told people to do, like when they've just been burnt by a bunch of mentors before, right? So ask for the entire client list. I'm very happy handing over our entire client list. You can message every single one of our clients, right? So go through the actual experience, their experiences in the program, right? I'm very confident in our success rate as well and the satisfaction levels, right? Now, along the actual point I would be more leaning into making is based on where you're at right now, just ask yourself, are you comfortable at this point? Right. Because I always think there's an argument for people not to stay comfortable in the same range for a long period of time. Now, that argument can differ for a lot of different people, but it's usually like, when's the last time you felt very uncomfortable with how fast you're moving? And I think that is one of those things where like it applies to a lot of people, it doesn't apply to everyone. And usually the speed I would hope isn't like triggered by something going wrong in the business, but more as a need for security in a larger range and for maximizing potential. So like security comes from both sides as well, right? In terms of growth and then having bigger numbers as well, building a bigger bank basically. And then of course something that outlives just you. I'm in this for the long run. I believe I do think that this space needs a lot of fixing. Let's see. So it's like very much want to grow in this space as well. So start from absolutely zero forward. So fitness space in general was very very big for me. So I was off 750 a month for many years in med schools, and then that's why I was like, okay, this whole business space served me very very well. Hope it does for everyone as well. Hope everyone does go all in as well.
Pass. Awesome. Lads, I really, really genuine hand on heart appreciate your time. I understand how busy you guys are. I understand. I don't know if it's your day off, Azri, but I know it's your day off, Mike. I understand. Even like with the income that you have, just take this time out of your week to put it into this. It speaks volumes around because at the end of the day, like this isn't the world's biggest podcast. You know what I mean? Like, it speaks volumes around your passion for the industry and how much you want to help. And even on your way out, Mike, you're still here working on your day off for what? You know what I mean? So it's for the industry. So yeah, just a real hand on heart thank you, and we'll end it there. And I'll be in touch soon for further things. But yeah, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, mate.
Appreciate it. Good
Good to
catching
meet you.
up, like,
Yeah.
and you, take it easy.
Thank you.